Chapter 193. Some of the employees were ready to collect Li Donghai's body. He would never know how he died if he treated the president as a prostitute. In the whole Lin's group, the most qualified person to fire Li Donghai was the president, Lin Momo. Qin Haodong looked at dumbass who didn't know he was going to die with a complicated expression. Although he didn't like this guy at all, he couldn't drive him out of Lin's group directly because his grandfather Li Qingshan was there. But Li Donghai provoked Lin Momo in all kinds of ways before he did anything. Qin Haodong couldn't blame him. After all, he wasn't in the mood to help him. I don't have the right to fire you, but my girlfriend can. Qin Haodong stepped aside after saying that. It was obvious that he wanted Lin Momo to handle it. Lin Momo understood what Qin Haodong meant. She didn't have any scruples anymore. She said to Li Donghai, "How did you get into Lin's group? Why are you sitting here and watching the live broadcast when others are working? I can come in however I like and do whatever I like. What does it have to do with you?" Li Donghai said proudly, "But this is the sales department of Lin's group. I advise you to get out of here. You don't even have an employee card. Why are you yelling at me?" This guy must have been kicked in the head by many donkeys. How could he ask the president to get out? Many employees were devastated. Lin Momo looked back and saw Chao Yang, the director of the sales department. She asked, "Director Chao, who hired him?" It was Guo Xiaomei, the deputy director of the human resources department. She told him in person. Chao Yang was also helpless. Guo Xiaomei was the deputy director of the human resources department. He couldn't afford to offend this department. She was also the lover of Zhao Zhongqin, the major shareholder. Therefore he had to show some respect to Li Donghai. He was not as strict as he was with other employees. He could do whatever he wanted. But he never dreamed that Li Donghai, the pig, would run into Lin Momo and treat the president as a prostitute. If he had known that, he would rather offend Guo Xiaomei than let the pig stay. However, Li Donghai's stupidity was far beyond his imagination. He said to Lin Momo with a proud face, "See? I have a backer. If you dump Qin Haodong and follow me, I can find a way to let you enter Lin's group." Lin Momo ignored him and said to Chao Yang with a sullen face, "Tell Guo Xiaomei to run to the marketing department." Chao Yang answered and took out his phone to call Guo Xiaomei. "Who are you? Do you know who Guo Xiaomei is? You even asked me to run down here. Aren't you afraid of being slapped by the wind? She is the deputy director of the human resources department of Lin's group. If you want to enter Lin's group, you must get her permission." While Li Donghai was talking, Guo Xiaomei rushed in from outside. She was in such a hurry that she lost one of her high heels. She took off the other one and held it in her hand. She ran into the marketing department barefoot. When she arrived in front of Lin Momo, she was out of breath. The two peaks on her chest, which were stuffed with silicone gel, were moving up and down violently. Just now, Chao Yang had briefly explained the situation on the phone. She also knew that they were in big trouble today, so she ran over desperately, hoping that there was room for redemption. "Guo Xiaomei, did you recruit this person?" Lin Momo asked in a cold voice. But before Guo Xiaomei could speak, Li Donghai interrupted. "How can you talk to our Xiaomei like that? I told you that she is the deputy director of the human resources department. She has a lot of power. Be polite." It turned out that this guy still didn't understand the situation. Guo Xiaomei was panting. She almost passed out after hearing the idiot's words. She shouted, "Shut up." Qin Haodong shook his head secretly. He thought to himself that Li Donghai would die of stupidity in the future. He was really hopeless. Guo Xiaomei said to Lin Momo awkwardly, President, I recruited her." "Xiaomei, why are you so afraid of her? She's just a—" Li Donghai suddenly came to his senses and exclaimed, "What? President? Just a young lady who turned over a new leaf?" Lin Momo said coldly. Guo Xiaomei almost banged her head against the wall. What the hell did he say? After the downfall of Lin Zhigao and his son, her position in Lin's group was not as good as before. Although she still had Zhao Zhongqin's protection, it was not enough to fight against Lin Momo's authority. She was worried that Lin Momo would take the opportunity to kick her out. Who knew that Li Donghai the idiot had caused such a big trouble? She was thinking fast. It seemed that Li Donghai would be kicked out of Lin's group. What she needed to do was to disassociate herself from this idiot. Li Donghai was completely dumbfounded. He was not as arrogant as before. He looked dull. How could this woman be the president? How could Qin Haodong find the president as his girlfriend? "Xiaomei, are you mistaken? How could she be the president? She doesn't have an employee card. I told you to shut up. Have you ever seen a president with an employee card?" Guo Xiaomei wanted to strangle Li Donghai. She was about to disassociate herself from him, but he kept calling her Xiaomei. Wasn't it obvious that he was setting his teammate up? Now, Li Donghai knew that he was in big trouble, and it was a huge one at that. He hated his colleagues. Why didn't they tell him that the president was here? He didn't know that he had offended so many people because of his arrogance. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Deputy Minister Guo, you're so awesome. You've recruited such a great talent for our company." Seeing Qin Haodong was adding insult to injury, Guo Xiaomei was helpless. She had listened to Lin Pingqiao and provoked Qin Haodong some time ago. Lin Momo said coldly, "Guo Xiaomei, you have to give me an explanation for this." At this moment, her voice was filled with anger. Guo Xiaomei said quickly, "President, I don't know Li Donghai very well. I just saw that his college resume was good. He did well in school. I think he is a talent and has a lot of room for improvement in the future. So I recruited him." After trying her best to come up with this excuse, she was already sweating profusely. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Are you telling the truth?" "Yes, it's true." She thought that Lin Momo wouldn't check Li Donghai's file as the president, but she didn't expect that Qin Haodong knew Li Donghai's background very well. Qin Haodong said, "But as far as I know, Li Donghai failed 6 subjects in 4 years in college. He was almost expelled because he flirted with a girl. I don't know what you mean by good performance. Why do you think he is a talent?" "Well, it's not in the file. Maybe his file is fake." Guo Xiaomei said, "I really wanted to recruit talents for the group, but I didn't expect Li Donghai to be so bad. He not only didn't make progress, but also publicly insulted the president, which seriously damaged the company's image. It's my fault that I didn't know him well enough. I'll kick him out right now and do a deep examination." It had to be said that Guo Xiaomei was a talented actress. She spoke with a bitter face as if she had really realized her mistake. She thought that Li Donghai would definitely leave Lin's group. She should save herself first. But she thought so. Li Donghai was not happy. He shouted, "Guo Xiaomei, you're talking nonsense." Guo Xiaomei was afraid that her stupid teammate would say something bad again. She hurriedly shouted, "You have no right to speak here. Shut up." Li Donghai shouted, "Bitch, are you going to burn the bridge after crossing it? I've already said that I'll go with you. Bedsheet, you transferred me to Lin's group. Now I've served you well and you want to kick me out? Don't you have any conscience?" Bullshit. Guo Xiaomei's face was red. She didn't expect that Li Donghai would say such a thing in public. She had always slept with old men, so she wanted to have a taste of a young one. She met Li Donghai in a bar by chance. They hit it off and reached an agreement. Guo Xiaomei would help Li Donghai enter Lin's group, and Li Donghai would sleep with Guo Xiaomei. Qin Haodong looked at Li Donghai and felt it was funny. This guy was tall and a little handsome. He was really a good material to be a prostitute. Li Donghai shouted relentlessly, "How can I do that? Bullshit. I wouldn't sleep with an old woman like you if I didn't want to enter Lin's group. You think I can't see that your breasts are plump? You're all fake. You had a good time when you were an old cow eating young grass. Now you want to kick me out? No way." Seeing everyone's eyes were on her, Guo Xiaomei hurriedly shouted, "Don't slander me. There's no such thing." She then said to Lin Momo, "President, I really don't know him. Don't listen to his nonsense." Seeing Guo Xiaomei wouldn't admit it, Li Donghai became anxious. He took out his phone from his pocket and shouted, "Since you're so cruel, don't blame me." After that, he clicked on an audio file and heard a woman's voice on the phone, "Don't worry. I'm the Deputy Minister of the Human Resources Department of Lin's group. As long as you serve me well, it won't be a problem to transfer you there. And your monthly salary will not be less than 8,000 yuan. Everyone could tell that it was Guo Xiaomei who spoke. Li Donghai shouted, "How about it? Do you admit it or not? If you don't, I have many nude photos of you in bed on my phone. Do you want to show them to everyone?" Guo Xiaomei didn't expect Li Donghai to have so many backup plans. She suddenly became angry and cursed, "Bastard, how dare you set me up?" Then she rushed to Li Donghai, scratching and biting. Her sharp nails left bloody marks on Li Donghai's face. Li Donghai didn't hesitate to grab Guo Xiaomei's hair, punching and kicking her. They used to be a good couple in bed. In the blink of an eye they became enemies. "Enough, all of you, stop." Lin Momo shouted angrily. The security guards immediately separated the two who were fighting together. President, Guo Xiaomei, whose hair was messy, wanted to say something more, but she couldn't find any reason to defend herself now. With Li Donghai's recording, it was useless for her to say anything. Qin Haodong said, "What else do you want to say? Lin's group is a company, not a place for you to raise ducks." Chapter 194. Li Donghai yelled, "No, you can't fire me. He knew very well what kind of person he was. When he was in college, he almost didn't go to class. He ate, drank, gambled, and flirted with girls all day. He had been punished many times by the school. It was lucky that he hadn't been fired. All these were clearly written in his file. Because of this, he had never found a job after graduation. Now he finally got into Lin's group, where he could eat, drink, work, and make money. How could he be willing to leave? Lin Momo said coldly, "Give me a reason not to fire you. We're relatives. You're Haodong's girlfriend and I'm his brother. So you can't fire me." Then he squeezed out a flattering smile to Qin Haodong. But his face was scratched by Guo Xiaomei and it looked a little funny. "Haodong, I'm your brother. Don't forget you grew up in our family. Now you have a girlfriend who's the president. Say something for your brother." "You're my brother?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "If I remember correctly, this is the first time you've said you're my brother since you were a kid. Since the day I met you, you've been calling me a bastard. You beat me, scold me, and steal my things. Why do you think you're my brother now?" Li Donghai said embarrassedly, "That's because I was a kid. As long as you say something for me today, you'll be my brother and I'll be your brother." Qin Haodong knew what kind of person he was. If he kept this guy in Lin's group, he wouldn't be able to do anything because of his relationship with Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong said, "Li Donghai, don't be like that. Leave now. Don't get yourself into trouble." "Haodong, I was wrong before. You have to help me for the sake of my grandparents. I didn't kick you out for the sake of my grandparents. But now you're asking for it. Who can you blame?" Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't buy it, Li Donghai suddenly turned hostile and yelled, "Qin Haodong, you ungrateful bastard. Don't forget it's our family who raised you." Seeing this guy reveal his true colors, Qin Haodong said coldly, "Who raised me has nothing to do with you. Get out of here." After that, he waved his hand, and two security guards immediately came over to grab Li Donghai and drag him out. Seeing that Li Donghai was beaten up, Guo Xiaomei came to Lin Momo and begged, "President, please give me a chance. I know I was wrong this time. I won't do it again." Lin Momo said, "Guo Xiaomei, don't think I don't know what you've done in the group. You're not qualified to ask me for a chance." Guo Xiaomei didn't know what to say. She kept looking at the door. She had called Zhao Zhongqin before she came here. She thought the old man was too slow. Why didn't he come? Fortunately, at this time, the door opened and Zhao Zhongqin hurried in from outside. When Guo Xiaomei saw Zhao Zhongqin, she acted like she saw her family. She grabbed his arm and pressed her chest against him. She said in a sweet voice, "Godfather, please help me. The president is going to fire me." "Don't worry. I'll talk to the president." Zhao Zhongqin walked to Lin Momo and asked, "President, what the hell is going on? Xiaomei is doing a good job. Why is she fired?" "Old man Zhao, let me tell you. You're not a cuckold anymore. You're almost the Hulk." Qin Haodong put his arm around Zhao Zhongqin's shoulder and told him briefly about Guo Xiaomei and Li Donghai. Zhao Zhongqin was furious. Although Guo Xiaomei was his lover, not his wife, he couldn't tolerate Guo Xiaomei keeping ducks outside. "Bitch, look what you've done. How dare you come to me? Get out of the group now. Don't let me see you again." After that, Zhao Zhongqin turned around and left angrily. Guo Xiaomei ran over and grabbed his arm again. She wanted to put her fake breasts on him again, but Zhao Zhongqin slapped her to the ground. Then he pushed the door and left the marketing department. "Bastard, it's all your fault. You ruined me." After Guo Xiaomei got up from the ground, she vented all her anger on Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "You made your own way. You can't blame anyone else. Get out of here. It's not that easy to drive me away." Guo Xiaomei saw it was irreversible. She put her hands on her hips and suddenly showed the image of a shrew. She pointed at Qin Haodong and Lin Momo and shouted, "I'm also a gangster. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Let me tell you, my cousin is a gangster. He has thousands of brothers. It's fine if you let me be the Minister of Human Resources. But if my cousin comes, he'll tear down Lin's group." Qin Haodong shook his head secretly. Big breasts and no brains were really a famous saying. Even the fake breasts were brainless. Guo Xiaomei hadn't figured out the strength of Lin's group for so long. She used a gangster to threaten the top financial group in the city and wanted to be the Minister of Human Resources. He really didn't know what she was thinking. Was she thinking with her heels? He said, "Well, call your cousin here. I'd like to see how he'll tear down Lin's group. You won't give up until you see the coffin. You'll regret it when my cousin comes." After that, she took out her mobile phone and ran to the side to make a call. Lin Momo said to Qin Haodong, "Is it necessary? Just drive her out." Qin Haodong said, "I'll deal with it. It's better to solve all the trouble at once in case she sends gangsters to harass us later." Not long after, there was a commotion outside the marketing department. A group of gangsters in colorful clothes rushed in with steel pipes and knives in their hands. They looked fierce. Because the marketing department was open to the public, they didn't encounter any obstacles along the way and rushed in directly. The leader of the gangsters had a huge wolf head tattoo on his chest. It was Wild Wolf, an old acquaintance. Wild Wolf was very depressed when he went back yesterday. He wanted to help Lao Lu and make some extra money, but he didn't expect to lose 1 million. He just got a call from Guo Xiaomei, so he was refreshed. He had to make a lot of money today to make up for the loss last night. So he immediately rushed in with his men. His impression of the security department of Lin's group was still the same as before, so he didn't take the security here seriously. After entering the door, he waved the steel pipe in his hand and smashed a few cups. He shouted arrogantly, "Who the F***K dared to bully my cousin? Come out now. Cousin, you're here. You have to do it for me." Guo Xiaomei immediately threw herself into Wild Wolf's arms, lying in his arms, showing a wronged look. "Xiaomei, don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you." Wild Wolf patted Guo Xiaomei on the shoulder and said, "Tell me who bullied you, I'll go and break his legs now." "It's him, that toy boy," Guo Xiaomei said and pointed to Qin Haodong. There were a lot of people in the hall of the marketing department, so Wild Wolf saw Qin Haodong. His legs suddenly became weak and he almost knelt on the ground. He complained in his heart. He was so king unlucky. He had just been blackmailed 1 million yesterday. Why did he run into this guy again today? Guo Xiaomei saw Wild Wolf didn't move, so she shouted, "Cousin, this is the guy who bullied me. Break his legs for me." "Fuck you, you bitch." Wild Wolf kicked Guo Xiaomei's belly and she fell to the ground. Guo Xiaomei didn't react for a moment. She cried on the ground, "Cousin, why did you hit me? You hit the wrong guy." "That's exactly what I want to hit you, you bastard." Wild Wolf kicked Guo Xiaomei hard a few more times, and then came to Qin Haodong with a big smile on his face. He said respectfully, "Dr. Qin, sorry to bother you again." "Wild Wolf, it's fate that we meet again so soon." Qin Haodong patted Wild Wolf's shoulder and said with a playful face, "You have a lot of cousins. Are you a cousin specialist?" Wild Wolf said embarrassedly, "Dr. Qin, this stupid woman offended you. I'll teach her a lesson when I get back. I promise she won't dare to trouble you again." Qin Haodong said, "Since we are all acquaintances, it's easy to deal with it." Dr. Qin is right. We are all acquaintances. If there's nothing else, I'll take her back. Wild Wolf was about to leave with Guo Xiaomei after he said that. He couldn't wait to leave as soon as possible. If there was anyone in the world he didn't want to see, Qin Haodong was definitely the first. "Wait a minute." Before he could take 2 steps, Qin Haodong stopped him. "Dr. Qin, what else can I do for you?" Wild Wolf said with a flattering face. "I just said it's easy to deal with acquaintances and we don't need to fight. But I didn't say we won't deal with them." Wild Wolf said, "Dr. Qin, what do you want to do? As long as you say the word, I'll break this woman's legs for you right now." Guo Xiaomei trembled with fear. She knew Wild Wolf was cruel and merciless and he would do what he said. But she didn't expect that the helper she found would become someone else's fighter in a twinkling of an eye. "We are all civilized people. Don't fight like this. Besides, she's just a woman. It's over. I don't want to pursue it anymore." "Dr. Qin is so generous," Wild Wolf said flatteringly. "Even if it's over, you just came in and smashed the things of Lin's group. You have to pay for it, right?" Wild Wolf's heart skipped a beat. What he worried about had happened. It seemed that he would be blackmailed. He hoped this man wouldn't be as cruel as yesterday. He knew he was going to bleed today. He said helplessly, "Dr. Qin, how much do you need?" "Not too much. According to yesterday's standard, you can give me 1 million. 1 million? Wild Wolf cried in his heart. Even if he changed these cups into gold, it wouldn't cost 1 million. He said with a bitter face, "Dr. Qin, we are old acquaintances. I just smashed a few cups. I'll change them into crystal ones for you. Is that okay?" Qin Haodong said, "The cups are not much, just 100 yuan. The important thing is that the reputation of Lin's group has been damaged too much. Think about it. It won't be good if it said that Lin's group was smashed by you. Dr. Qin, how about you beat me to make up for the reputation of Lin's group?" Wild Wolf was really distressed. Although he had some savings over the years, it was only a few million. He couldn't afford to lose 1 million. Chapter 195. P. Wild Wolf wanted to disagree, but he could do nothing about it. Regardless of whether it was his status or his martial prowess, he was completely suppressed by the other party. He could not resist at all. He had no choice but to take the bank card from Qin Haodong. He took out his phone and transferred 1 million yuan to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong took back the bank card and said with a smile, "It was a pleasure working with you. I hope you can come to me again in the future." Wolf's chest was hot and he almost spat out blood. "Pleasure working with you? My heart is bleeding." At this time his chest was filled with anger. He pointed at Gu Xiaomei who was confused and shouted to his men, "Take this bitch away." It was all because of Gu Xiaomei. He was not willing to lose 1 million yuan. "We have to squeeze money out of this woman." Of course, Qin Haodong wouldn't stop her. A woman like Gu Xiaomei deserved to die. It had nothing to do with him. When these gangsters left, the staff of the marketing department looked at Qin Haodong with admiration and awe. Others would inevitably be blackmailed when encountering gangsters, but Qin Haodong had extorted 1 million yuan from them. The gap between people was too big. No wonder he could become the son-in-law of Lin's group and get the goddess. He really had the ability. Lin Momo and Qin Haodong went back to the president's office. She asked, "What's the matter with Li Donghai?" Qin Haodong briefly told the story of Li Donghai and his father, Li Kai. Finally he said, "Spoiling a child is like killing a child. Li Donghai has been spoiled by his parents since he was a child. As a result he has become like this. He has just graduated from college and he has learned to be a gigolo." Lin Momo also sighed and said, "I didn't expect Grandpa and Grandma to have such a grandson. I can't help it. The 9 sons of a dragon are all different." Qin Haodong didn't want to talk about Li Donghai anymore, so he said to Lin Momo, "There's something I haven't told you yet. Tonight is the concert of the superstar Ouyang Shanshan in Jiangnan City. She invited me to sing with her. I agreed." "Oh. This is a good thing. Children should participate in more activities. It is good for her growth. And to be able to sing with Ouyang Shanshan on the same stage is something worth remembering for a lifetime." Lin Momo said, "But I have too many things to do recently. After Lin Zhigao and Lin Pingchao left, a lot of things in the group need to be reorganized. I have to work overtime tonight so I can't go to see the little fellow's performance." "It doesn't matter. You go on with your work. I'll go." Qin Haodong understood Lin Momo very well. It was not easy for a woman to control such a large group. "Haodong, thank you for doing so much for us." Lin Momo looked at Qin Haodong affectionately. She knew very well that Ouyang Shanshan could invite Tang Tang to the concert because of Qin Haodong. Why are you being so polite with me again? Do you think I'm an outsider?" Qin Haodong raised his hand and placed it on Lin Momo's plump. He slapped his crotch. As a cold female president, Lin Momo had never been spanked like this. At the same time, it gave her an experience that she had never had before. She felt sore, hot, and a strange feeling came from her buttocks. Her cheeks were red. She stared at Qin Haodong with her charming eyes and said, "How can you be like this?" Although she was complaining, her voice was so coquettish that it seemed like water was about to drip out. Qin Haodong suddenly felt itchy in his heart. He said with a smirk, "Does it hurt? Let me rub it for you." Lin Momo hurriedly said, "Don't mess around. This is the company." What are you afraid of? Now the whole group knows that I'm the son-in-law of the group. It's natural for the son-in-law to be intimate with the girl." Then he stretched out his 2 big hands like a big bad wolf pouncing on a little sheep. But at this moment the phone in his pocket rang. Who is it? So disappointing." Qin Haodong muttered, but he still reached for the phone. He glanced at the caller ID and found it was Long Haixing. After the phone was connected, Long Haixing said politely, "Dr. Qin, last time you said that you needed to treat Xiaobao again. Do you have time today?" Qin Haodong had been so busy recently that he forgot about Long Xiaobao. He said, "Don't worry, I'll be there right away. Well, I'll wait for you at home." Long Haixing said and hung up the phone. Go ahead. I'll go to see a patient first and then go directly to the concert venue. I won't come back." Qin Haodong said and kissed Lin Momo's forehead gently. "Take care of yourself. Don't be too tired." After leaving Lin's group, he came to Long Haixing's home. Seeing Qin Haodong enter the door, Long Haixing and his wife greeted him from afar. Long Xiaobao skipped and ran in front of them. His face had regained a healthy color, and an inch of black hair had grown on his head. If he didn't say it out loud, no one would be able to tell that he used to be a child with leukemia. "Hello, Uncle Qin." Long Xiaobao was a little older than Tang Tang. He knew that Qin Haodong had saved his life, so he was very close to him. Qin Haodong patted his head and said, "You're recovering well." After entering the room, Qin Haodong took out the silver needles and gave Long Xiaobao the last treatment. After the treatment he felt the pulse again and said, "Xiaobao has basically recovered. There is no difference between him and a normal child in the future. Let him go to school. Dr. Chin, thank you so much. You will be my brother in the future. Yes, Dr. Chin, you are the great benefactor of our Long family. Women were strange creatures. Since Long Xiaobao's illness recovered, Chao Ting had become a gentle and kind woman again. She was no longer the shrew she used to be. Long Xiaobao jumped out of bed and said, Uncle Chin, why didn't Sister Tang Tang come to play with me? Chao Ting also said, yes, why didn't Tang Tang come? Now Xiaobao wants to play with Sister Tang all day. Qin Haodong said, Tang Tang has something to do. She will hold a concert with Ouyang Shanshan in the evening. She is rehearsing now. Sister Tang Tang is going to sing. I want to see it. I want to see it. Long Xiaobao immediately jumped and shouted. It's amazing that she can sing with the big star Ouyang Shanshan. Chao Ting turned to Long Haixing and said, let's go to the concert together. Well, we must go to Tang Tang's concert. Long Haixing said to Qin Haodong, Dr. Qin, let's go together. Qin Haodong said, our security company is responsible for the security of Ouyang Shanshan's concert this time, so I have something to do. See you tonight. Then he left Long Haixing's house and drove to Daddy's security company. When he arrived at the company's yard, Zhang Tiniu had gathered all the company's security guards on the training ground. Today was different from the past. Everyone wore the special uniforms of Daddy's security company, with a specially designed logo on their chest. The company's security guards used to be excellent soldiers. After putting on the uniforms, a murderous aura suddenly filled the whole place, which was no less than that of regular soldiers. Nailin Wushuang wore a pure black vest with a unique low neckline that generously showed her beautiful cleavage line. She wore a pleated gauze skirt and a pair of white-pink shoes on her feet. Chi Wan was wearing a t-shirt with a suspender dress. The slim style perfectly showed her curvy figure and outlined her beautiful figure, which made her look very feminine. Two well-dressed women stood in front of many security guards, forming a sharp contrast, looking particularly beautiful and dazzling. Qin Haodong parked the car and stepped into the training ground. He nodded with satisfaction and said, not bad indeed. Nailin Wushuang looked at him and said, why are you so late? Everyone is waiting for you. Qin Haodong said, it's not too late. Why not? We are responsible for the safety of the whole venue, so we have to intervene in advance. Nailin Wushuang threw a new security guard uniform to Qin Haodong and said, put this on quickly and then let's go. Do I still need to wear this? Qin Haodong said. Why not? Now we are short of manpower, and even half of the security guards responsible for Miss Lin's safety have come back. So now you are no longer the boss but a security guard and you have to listen to my command. Today is the first large-scale activity of our Daddy security company, and Ouyang Shanshan's concert is also the best promotion for us, so we must not make any mistakes. Then why don't you wear the security guard uniform and dress so beautifully? Qin Haodong said discontentedly. Of course we are different from you. You men are responsible for safety, and we women are responsible for beauty. Sister Weiner and I represent the image of our Daddy security company. Well, I'll wear it. Qin Haodong opened the package and put on the security guard uniform. After everything was ready, the people of Daddy security company came to the Jiangnan City Stadium, which was a large stadium with a capacity of more than 10,000 people. According to Ouyang Shanshan's influence, it would be full tonight, so the organizer had to invest a lot of security forces. Zhang Tiniu was better at organizing security, so Qin Haodong left all the work to him. He sneaked to the backstage and saw the little fellow and Ouyang Shanshan seriously training together. In order not to disturb the little fellow, he left after watching for a while. After walking around the stadium and familiarizing himself with the situation, he came to the entrance of the concert. The pressure at the entrance of all large-scale activities was the greatest. Zhang Tiniu personally guarded here with more than a dozen elite security guards, including whip and sword, who were taken back from Lin Momo. The time of the concert was getting closer and closer. The entrance had begun to allow the audience to enter with tickets. However, because of the hot weather, there were not many people at the beginning. Uncle Qin, you are so handsome. With a childish cry, Long Haixing and his wife came to the entrance with Long Xiaobao in their arms, followed by Dafei and 7 or 8 bodyguards. Yes, I am handsome, so I look handsome in everything. Qin Haodong smiled and pinched Long Xiaobao's face. Long Haixing said, Brother Qin, why are you here in person as the boss? Qin Haodong said with a smile, I have no choice. There are not enough people. Long Xiaobao said, Uncle Qin, where is Tang Tang? Why don't I see her? Qin Haodong said, Tang Tang is training. She will perform on the stage in a while. You will see her later. At this time, a young couple in their 20s came over. The girl had long hair and was holding a large bucket of popcorn in her hand. The girl exclaimed when she saw Long Xiaobao, what a cute baby. Little brother, this bucket of popcorn is for you, okay? The girl gave the bucket of popcorn to Long Xiaobao and Zhu Linlin. Chapter 196. Because of Long Xiaobao's health, Chao Ting had never allowed him to eat junk food. She said politely when the girl brought the popcorn, thank you, but we can't take it. You're welcome. It's just a bucket of popcorn. Save it for the children. As the woman spoke, she took another step forward and handed over the popcorn again. Thank you, but we really can't take it. Chao Ting refused and said to Long Xiaobao, thank you, sister. Thank you, sister, but I don't want it. Long Xiaobao said obediently, little brother, take it. The popcorn is delicious. After saying that, the girl suddenly shook her wrist, and the bucket of popcorn in her hand smashed toward Zhu Linlin and Long Xiaobao's faces. Then, the hand she had hidden under the popcorn popped out, and in it was a bright dagger. Just when Chao Ting and Long Xiaobao were at a loss and didn't understand what was going on, the dagger in the girl's hand had slid quickly to Long Xiaobao's neck. This move was fast and ruthless. Long Xiaobao was about to lose his life. Chao Ting was just an ordinary woman. She was completely scared at this time, standing there like a clay statue. It was too late for Dafei and his bodyguards to find the abnormality here. It was too late for them to come to the rescue. They could only watch helplessly. At this moment, a big hand suddenly appeared out of thin air and grabbed the female killer's wrist. The tip of the dagger was tightly attached to Long Xiaobao's throat. But no matter how hard the female killer tried, the dagger in her hand could not move a little bit. It was Qin Haodong who did it. He would not be polite to such a person who attacked children. He slightly exerted force in his hand, and a sound of bones cracking was heard. The bones of the female killer's right hand were crushed by him, and the dagger fell to the ground with a clang. Seeing that the female killer was subdued, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But at this moment, the man who had been silent behind the female killer moved again. When everyone's attention was shifted to Long Xiaobao, he suddenly raised his hand and pointed a black pistol in his hand at Long Haixing's face. Obviously this was a pair of killers. Long Haixing was their ultimate target, and the assassination of Long Xiaobao was just to divert everyone's attention. In fact, this move was very effective. Dafei and his bodyguards were clustered around Long Haixing. But at the moment when Long Xiaobao was in danger, everyone moved to Chao Ting's side, and the defense around Long Haixing became empty. The young man's old-fashioned face showed a trace of cruelty. His finger moved and was about to pull the trigger, but at this moment, a long black whip swept over like a snake. The pistol fired, but it was also swept into the air by the long whip, and the bullet flew to who knows where. Before the young man could react, Sharp Sword chopped his neck with a knife, and knocked him to the ground. Whip and Sword had been guarding Qin Haodong. Both of them were experienced mercenaries. When the female killer attacked, they immediately turned their attention to the man and saved Long Haixing in time. Whip and Sharp Sword had been guarding Qin Haodong. Both of them were very experienced mercenaries. When the female killer attacked, they immediately turned their attention to the man and saved Long Haixing in time. The gunshot just now caused a little chaos. The police on duty immediately ran over. After asking about the situation, they handcuffed the two killers and took them to the police car. After this incident, Long Haixing showed the temperament of a gang leader. His face did not change at all, as if it was not him who had just experienced the assassination but someone else. But Chao Ting and Long Xiaobao could not. Chao Ting was scared and her face was pale. Long Xiaobao looked dull and could not recover for a long time. It was not until Qin Haodong helped him with Greenwood genuine qi that he slowly returned to normal. Seeing that his son had returned to normal, Long Haixing breathed a sigh of relief. He stepped forward and said to Qin Haodong, Brother Qin, thanks to you this time. Our Long family owes you 2 lives. It doesn't matter. It's a piece of cake. Qin Haodong asked, who are these 2 people? Why would they attack you? Long Haixing said, although I am a gangster, I always have my own rules. I will never allow any drug trade within my control, which just blocks some people's way of making money. A few days ago, someone came to me and offered me 100 million yuan to open the underground market in Jiangnan and allow them to sell drugs in my place, but I refused. I'm guessing that these people are desperate. The 2 assassins just now were probably sent by them. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. Long Haixing was a man of integrity. He could resist the temptation of 100 million yuan. He said, Mr. Long, I support you in this regard. If you need any help, just call me. Don't worry. I can handle this myself. Long Haixing said, when the concert is over, let's go for a drink. After that, he took Chao Ting and Long Xiaobao into the stadium and continued to watch the concert. Dafei and those bodyguards closely guarded him. This episode was quickly diluted with the arrival of a large number of people. Few people knew what had just happened here. After this incident, the relationship between Qin Haodong and Long Haixing was closer. Long Haixing was grateful to Qin Haodong for saving his life, and Qin Haodong's understanding of Long Haixing deepened. After Long Haixing left, Qin Haodong thought for a moment. There were too many people at the scene. It was inevitable that some people would come in. Safety was the most important thing. So he left all the work at the door to Zhang Tiniu and others. He entered the venue and came to the stage. For him, the most important thing was to protect the little fellow at all times. The tickets for today's concert were very popular. The VIP ticket closest to the stage cost 5,000 yuan, but it was also sold out. Qin Haodong chose a suitable position between the VIP seat and the stage. It was convenient to control everything on the stage without affecting other audience watching the performance. At this time, a man and a woman came over and sat not far from Qin Haodong. The woman was in her early 20s. She was tall and had shoulder-length hair. She wore a white skirt that could only cover her buttocks and carried an LV bag in her hand. She was born with an oval face. She looked very beautiful, but the makeup on her face was so thick that it covered her original beauty. The man looked about 30 years old. He was short and fat. Needless to say how big his belly was. Anyway, he couldn't see his little brother when he peed. This guy was wearing luxury brands all over his body. It was worth a lot at first glance. He wore 3 big shiny diamond rings and an Omega gold watch worth millions. At this time, his right hand was holding the woman's waist, and his left hand kept moving on the woman's thigh. He was completely like a lecher. The two sat together and teased each other as if there was no one else. At this moment, the woman looked up and saw Qin Haodong in the corner. She cried in surprise, "It's you?" Qin Haodong turned his head and looked in the direction of the voice. When he saw the woman's face clearly, a memory left by his predecessor slowly appeared in his mind. A year ago, Qin Haodong stood in front of Lu Yuqing with a bouquet of red roses in his hand. He said excitedly, "Yuqing, I like you. Be my girlfriend." Lu Yuqing's reaction was far beyond Qin Haodong's expectation. She stared at him and looked disgusted, as if she had been greatly insulted. She said with an exaggerated expression, "Qin Haodong, are you kidding me? How dare a person like you confess to me?" Qin Haodong was recognized as the most handsome man in the university. He had good grades and was very arrogant. At this time he was shocked by Lu Yuqing. He was stunned and didn't know what to do. He and Lu Yuqing were classmates. They usually talked very well and communicated a lot. They even made some jokes between men and women from time to time. Before this, he had thought that the relationship between the two had been smooth. All they needed was a confession. He didn't expect it to be like this. Seeing Qin Haodong's stunned expression, Lu Yuqing asked disdainfully, "Do you have a house in Jiangnan City if you want to pursue me?" Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "No." "Do you have a BMW?" "No." "Do you have a 7-figure deposit?" "No." "Since you have nothing, who gave you the courage to pursue me?" Lu Yuqing said proudly, "Do you know that there is a rich young man pursuing me now? His family's assets are hundreds of millions, and he has more than a dozen houses in Jiangnan City. How can you compete with him? If you were me, what would you choose?" Qin Haodong said, "Yuqing, it's about feelings when two people are in love. Why are you so realistic?" Lu Yuqing said, "I'm so beautiful. A woman's beauty is the same as a man's wealth. They are the biggest capital. Since I have capital, I should make good use of it and think about my future happiness." Qin Haodong slowly came to his senses and realized that the beautiful Lu Yuqing in front of him was such a realistic woman. She didn't care about his feelings and self-esteem at all. He raised his hand and threw the rose in his hand into the trash can next to him. He said coldly, "Lu Yuqing, I always think that feelings are more important than money. Money can be earned, but feelings can't be bought with money. Don't bully a young man because he's poor. Although I'm not a rich second generation, I can be a rich first generation." Lu Yuqing sneered and said, "Do you think money is so easy to earn? People like you will never be a rich first generation." After thinking about all this, Qin Haodong's mouth showed a faint smile. His predecessor's taste was too low. How could he confess to such a woman? Seeing this materialistic woman again, Qin Haodong's mood didn't change much. He said lightly, "Lu Yuqing, I didn't expect to see you here. The fat man glanced at Qin Haodong and his expression suddenly became cold. Women were not the only ones who were good at jealousy. He was the same. Every time he saw a man who was more handsome than him, he would be jealous to death. Especially this man in front of him was not only handsome, but also seemed to have some inexplicable things with his woman. He asked, "Yuqing, who is this man?" Lu Yuqing said quickly, "Honey, don't think too much. He pursued me when we were in love, but I refused him. He was defeated by you. So he's the poor guy who doesn't know his own worth." After hearing Lu Yuqing's words, the fat man's expression became better. Qin Haodong was in a bad mood and his face also became cold. This woman was too much. It was her right to refuse him, but they were classmates anyway. Was it necessary to humiliate him to please her man? Chapter 197. Qin Haodong said lightly, "You're right. You're lucky I didn't choose you." "You?" Lu Yuqing heard the sarcasm in Qin Haodong's tone and said, "Is there anything else you can't accept? Look at this ring on my hand. Ziming bought it for me for 80,000 yuan. This bag of mine is a limited edition LV for 60,000 yuan. Ziming even gave me a beetle car. Can you give me these?" Taking a deep breath, she seemed to be still angry and continued, "Didn't you vow to me that you wanted to be the first generation to be rich? Didn't you say you would make a lot of money? Where's your money? Where's your wealth? Is it the baton in your hand or the security uniform you're wearing? Qin Haodong, you're really going backwards. People go to the hospital for internships during the holidays, but you come here to be a small security guard. I feel so ashamed to be your classmate." Qin Haodong didn't care about this kind of woman at all. He said with a smile, "It's good to be a security guard. What's wrong with it?" "You." Lu Yuqing had talked for a long time just to make Qin Haodong feel ashamed and guilty, so that he would lower his head in front of her. But she didn't expect that he didn't care at all. It made her feel like hitting cotton with all her strength, which made her feel very uncomfortable. "Yuqing, don't be angry. People like him are used to being poor and don't know what it's like to be rich. Naturally, he can't understand how terrible poverty is." The fat man said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Wang Ziming. My family has 3 companies with assets of more than 100 million yuan. Well, since you and Yuqing are classmates, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. I'll let you see what the upper class is and let you feel the life of the rich." The reason why he invited Qin Haodong to dinner was naturally not out of kindness. His purpose was to show off how rich he was and trample on Qin Haodong's dignity to relieve his inferiority complex. At the same time, he could make Lu Yuqing fall in love with him. His inner thought was that even if Qin Haodong was handsome, he was still a poor man and couldn't compare with him. However, Qin Haodong glanced at him and said, "I don't eat with everyone. You're too ugly. I can't eat if I look at you." "You, pauper, what are you pretending for?" Wang Ziming said as he took out a stack of brand new Wuxia currency from his bag. He held it in his palm and said, "Come to dinner with me tonight and this money is yours." In his opinion, 10,000 yuan was enough for a poor person to live for a year. Qin Haodong would definitely put down his dignity and bow to him. However, Qin Haodong didn't even look at him and turned his head to the side. "Boy, you are good at pretending. I want to see how long you can pretend." Wang Ziming said and took out a stack of Wuxia currency and slapped it in his palm. 20,000 yuan? This time, Qin Haodong turned more thoroughly. He faced the stage directly, leaving his butt to the two of them. "Boy, you are too much," Wang Ziming said and took out a stack of Wuxia currency. 30,000 yuan. "Let me tell you, don't be too greedy. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get another one." For such a clown, Qin Haodong didn't even bother to look at him. But at this moment, a beautiful figure flashed over and said in a sweet voice, "Honey, he's right. How can you miss such a good thing when I invite you to dinner and give you money?" While speaking, a white and tender hand directly took away the 3 stacks of Wuxia currency from Wang Ziming's palm and stuffed them into Qin Haodong's hand. Qin Haodong turned his head and saw Hu Xiaoxian's charming face smiling in front of him. He asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" Hu Xiaoxian said coquettishly, "You are my man. I will naturally come when you are here." At this time, Wang Ziming had been stunned. He had never seen such a beautiful woman for so many years. What was an angelic face, what was a devilish figure, were vividly interpreted by Hu Xiaoxian. After Hu Xiaoxian's arrival, Lu Yuqing beside him suddenly lost her beauty. The difference in appearance between the two people was too big. His eyes were fixed on Hu Xiaoxian's concave body, and he was reluctant to move them away for a moment. Seeing Wang Ziming's appearance, Lu Yuqing was so jealous that she cried to Hu Xiaoxian, "Who are you? What's your business here? And why are you so fierce?" "I am Haodong's girlfriend. Aren't you going to invite Haodong to dinner? I said yes for him. Hu Xiaoxian's every move, every frown and every smile were full of charm. Wang Ziming was fascinated and his saliva was almost flowing down. He secretly vowed that no matter how much money it would cost, he must get this woman. Lu Yuqing suddenly, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, screamed, "Little devil, who are you calling auntie?" But before Hu Xiaoxian could speak, Wang Ziming pulled her behind him and scolded, "What are you shouting for? Don't you feel ashamed?" After scolding Lu Yuqing, he said to Hu Xiaoxian with a flattering face, "Beauty, let's have dinner together when the concert is over." Seeing Wang Ziming flattering Hu Xiaoxian, Lu Yuqing was so angry, but she dared not say a word of complaint, because she liked other people's money. Hu Xiaoxian said, "Okay handsome, but we must go to a high-end restaurant. I won't go to less than 5 stars. Sure. How can my treat be low? Let's go to the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel, the best hotel in Jiangnan City, super 5 stars. Well, let's see you there." Hu Xiaoxian also threw a coquettish look at Wang Ziming, which almost made him lose his soul. Wang Ziming returned to their seats with Lu Yuqing in a daze. Hu Xiaoxian took Qin Haodong's arm and said with a smile, "How is it? I, your girlfriend, have helped you vent your anger?" Qin Haodong said, "It's just 2 small people. Why bother with them? I didn't agree to go eat with that damn fatty. If you want to go, go by yourself. Don't you worry about letting such a delicate beauty have a meal with that fatty? That guy obviously doesn't have any good intentions towards me." Worried? If there's anything I'm worried about, it's that fatty. I'm afraid he'll be toyed to death by you. Qin Haodong despised Hu Xiaoxian fiercely. How could a master at the second level of covert power say that he was delicate? He was afraid that only a few people in Jiangnan City could be her match. "I just want to kill that fat man. Who let him bully my man?" Hu Xiaoxian laughed and said, "I just saw them ganging up to bully you. Since this kind of person likes to pretend. If we force him, we'll slap his face." Qin Haodong knew that Hu Xiaoxian was being kind, but he still said, "I can't do that. I have an appointment with my friends tonight. I don't have time to have dinner with them." "What's wrong with that? Let's go together. The more people there are, the livelier it will be. When the time comes, we'll ruthlessly slaughter that damn fatty and make him bleed a little more." Hu Xiaoxian took Qin Haodong's hand and said, "Anyway, I've already promised him to go. If you don't go, I'll take you there." Seeing that more and more people were paying attention to them, Qin Haodong said helplessly, "Well, let's wait until the concert is over. Then I'll ask my friend. If he agrees, we'll go. If he doesn't agree, forget it." "Don't worry, I'll make him agree." Hu Xiaoxian laughed. "How did you get in? The concert is about to start. Hurry up and find a place to sit." "Of course I got a ticket to come in." Hu Xiaoxian took out a VIP ticket and shook it in front of Qin Haodong. Then she sat on a chair not far away and looked at him with a smile. She made a face from time to time. Qin Haodong was not surprised about this. As a member of the special department, it was very easy to get a VIP ticket. After a while, the concert finally began. The curtain opened, and the radiant Ouyang Shanshan came out from the backstage holding the extremely beautiful little fellow. As soon as the 2 beauties appeared, they won the applause of the audience. The 2 people sang as they walked. Ouyang Shanshan's voice was high and melodious, and the little fellow's voice was pure and sweet. The 2 voices perfectly combined and complemented each other, like the sound of nature. Originally, there were many people who disagreed with Ouyang Shanshan's arrangement. They thought that a child should not be allowed to participate in such an important concert. Tang Tang used her beautiful voice to stop these people's mouths and won the applause and love of all the audience at the scene. The whole concert was unprecedentedly enthusiastic. Many people's palms were numb. After 3 hours, the concert successfully came to an end. During the whole concert, Wang Ziming's eyes had been wandering between Ouyang Shanshan and Hu Xiaoxian next to him. There was no harm without comparison. After seeing these 2 super beauties and then looking at Lu Yuqing next to him, there was no passion at all. He was afraid that at this time he would let the 2 of them go. He was afraid that at this time he had lost interest in the sheets. As soon as the concert was over, he immediately ran to Hu Xiaoxian and said, "Beautiful lady, I have booked VIP room number 10 in dreamy Jiangnan. You can go with me in my car." He deliberately emphasized that he had booked a VIP room. The implication was that he wanted to show his identity and attract Hu Xiaoxian's attention. In fact, VIP room number 10 was the lowest of the VIP rooms in dreamy Jiangnan, which was much lower than the VIP room number 3 with the terrace. Hu Xiaoxian didn't seem to understand the meaning of his words. She said lightly, "You go first. My boyfriend and I have something to deal with." We'll go together later. Wang Ziming was slightly disappointed, but he still said, well, I'll wait for you in the VIP room. He left the stadium with Lu Yuqing. Hu Shaoxian swayed her sexy body and came to Qin Haodong's side and said, little man, when are we leaving? Wait a minute. At this time Long Haixing happened to come over. Qin Haodong briefly introduced the situation and said, Brother Long, how about going to dreamy Jiangnan together? After learning that Long Haixing desperately prevented drugs from entering the underground world of Jiangnan, Qin Haodong directly changed his address to Brother Long. Long Haixing was secretly happy. He knew that his relationship with this young man was closer. He said, I just want to get together with my brother and have a toast. It doesn't matter where we are. After that, he turned to Dafei and said, can you send my wife and Xiaobao home first? Dafei said, boss, what about your safety? Long Haixing said, I am with Brother Qin. There is no problem with my safety. You go back first. Dafei nodded. He had a deep understanding of Qin Haodong's skills. They were more useful than 100 bodyguards. Later, Qin Haodong called Sword and Whip and arranged for them to send the little fellow and Ouyang Shanshan to dreamy Jiangnan after removing their makeup. Everything was arranged. Qin Haodong, Hu Shaoxian and Long Haixing got in the car together. Long Haixing asked, Brother Qin, who is this girl? Why don't you introduce her? Chapter 198. Qin Haodong said, Brother Long, her name is Hu Shaoxian. We are just ordinary friends. He wanted to explain, but Long Haixing didn't believe him at all. He said with a smile, Brother, you don't have to explain. I was also a man from that time. It's not a big deal to be a playboy. You are a capable man. It's not a big deal to have more girlfriends. Qin Haodong also knew that the more he explained, the worse it would get, so he didn't say more. Soon they arrived at dreamy Jiangnan. Under the guidance of the waiter, they came to VIP room number 10. Compared with the previous VIP room number 3, the area here was half the size, and the decoration was much worse, but it was still a grade higher than the ordinary private room. Wang Ziming and Lu Yuqing had been waiting in the private room for a long time. When Qin Haodong came in, Wang Ziming didn't move, but then he saw Hu Shaoxian following closely behind and immediately greeted her with a smile. Beautiful lady, you're here. Please sit down. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, handsome Haodong, and I also brought a friend. Do you mind? I don't mind, of course not. Wang Ziming glanced at Long Haixing, who was wearing sunglasses, and didn't pay attention to him at all. In his opinion, the friend of a small security guard was certainly not a great person. After they were all seated, he looked at Qin Haodong proudly and said, What do you think? Security guards like you have never been to such a luxurious entertainment place in your life, have you? Let me tell you, a meal here is enough for you to earn several years as a security guard. It's right to bring your friend here. I guess it's impossible for you to eat here from now on. You know, the VIP room of dreamy Jiangnan can't be booked with money. It's a symbol of status. Hearing this guy's words, Long Haixing's face suddenly sank. As the underground leader of Jiangnan City, who dared to talk to him like this? However, everything he did today was based on Qin Haodong. Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't say anything, he didn't speak. Seeing that Qin Haodong and Long Haixing didn't speak, Wang Ziming became more and more proud. Only in this way could he show his special identity and attract the attention of the beauty opposite him. At this time, the waiter brought the menu to the table and said politely, Gentlemen, please order. Wang Ziming said, Order whatever you want to eat. I don't need money. I guess after today you won't have a chance to eat again. After that, he said to Hu Shaoxian with a flattering face, Beauty, what would you like to drink? Hu Shaoxian said, Red wine. I'm not used to other wines. Although she still had a smile on her face, in her heart, she was already extremely disgusted with this self-righteous fatty. She had to ruthlessly rip him off with a knife. Red wine must be good. Only then will it have a taste. After Wang Ziming finished speaking, he snapped his fingers at the waiter and said, Give us a bottle of Petrus. The waiter asked politely, Sir, may I know which model of Petrus you would like? Wang Ziming pretended to be generous and said, Didn't you see me talking to the beauty? If you want to drink red wine, you must drink good wine. Give us Petrus for 20,000 yuan a bottle. All right, I understand, sir. The waiter's reply was very polite, but his heart was filled with contempt. The red wine of dreamy Jiangnan was flown from France. The wine was good and the price was naturally high. The cheapest bottle of Petrus was 20,000 yuan. Wang Ziming said it so generously. It was obvious that he was bullying Qin Haodong because they had not drunk good red wine and did not know the price of red wine. Wang Ziming did think so. In his opinion, a small security guard could not drink good wine. It was good enough for him to drink a bottle of erguoto for a few yuan. He turned to Hu Shaoxian and said proudly, "How about it, beauty? Are you satisfied? You know 20,000 yuan a bottle is a high-end wine. Many people can't earn 20,000 yuan a year." Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, "Brother, I don't remember it like this. Isn't the cheapest Petrus in dreamy Jiangnan 20,000 yuan? This grade of Petrus is a bit sour. Brother, you are not going to treat us to the cheapest red wine, are you?" Wang Ziming suddenly felt embarrassed. He did not expect Hu Shaoxian to know so much about red wine. He quickly said, "Oh, of course not. I just said it casually. Of course we should drink good wine when we treat a beauty." He turned to the waiter and said, "Did you hear that? Give us 50,000 yuan a bottle of Petrus." "Yes, sir." The waiter was about to leave with the menu, but Qin Haodong raised his hand and stopped her. "Wait a minute, miss. Is there only one bottle of red wine ordered by Mr. Wang?" "Yes, sir. There is only one bottle of Petrus. But there are 5 of us. How can one bottle of red wine be enough?" Qin Haodong said to Wang Ziming, "Mr. Wang, didn't you say you would take me here to broaden my horizons? We are all good drinkers. Everyone's glass can't be filled with a bottle of red wine. You won't be so stingy, will you?" Since he was here today, he would make this guy pay more. Naturally, he would not be polite. Wang Ziming's face was livid. This was 50,000 yuan a bottle of Petrus, not 2 yuan a bottle of erguoto. This guy was obviously going to cheat him. Damn it. However, in order to make Hu Shaoxian fall in love with him, he had already talked big. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Well, since one bottle is not enough, let's have 2 bottles. Hu Shaoxian said, "Handsome, I'm also very good at drinking. 2 bottles are not enough. How about 1 bottle for each of us? You are so generous. You don't care about the wine, do you?" "No, of course not." Wang Ziming gritted his teeth and said, "Although Petrus is a high-end wine, it's nothing to me." He secretly made up his mind that as long as he got Hu Shaoxian in bed today, he must take a few more blue pills to vent his depression. "Waiter, did you hear that? 5 bottles of Petrus. I'm going to drink with the beauty today." He waved his hand and looked very heroic, but in fact he was very distressed. 5 bottles of wine were 250,000 yuan. Although he had some money, he was not generous to this extent. "Handsome, you are so generous." Hu Shaoxian's praise made Wang Ziming feel much better. He said proudly, "Of course I'm a man, and men naturally don't care about this little money. Beauty, I still don't know your name. Is it convenient to tell me?" "Handsome, my name is Hu Shaoxian." "Hu Shaoxian, good name." Wang Ziming said with a pig face, "Let's have more contact in the future. I'm not only generous but also have strengths. You'll know when you see me." All the people present could hear that this was already full of hooliganism. Hu Shaoxian's eyes flashed coldly, but she still said with a smile, "Really? I'd like to see it when I have a chance." Although she looked foxy, she was actually very loyal to her feelings. This fat man dared to flirt with her openly. He must think that he was living too comfortably. "Don't worry, beauty. I won't let you down." Wang Ziming laughed and seemed to have seen hope. No matter how beautiful a woman was, she could not resist his money attack in the end. Her boyfriend flirted with Hu Shaoxian again and again. Lu Yuqing, who was sitting next to him, was not unaware, but she knew her man's character. He liked to steal. In order to keep her position, she could only choose to turn a blind eye. Otherwise, if she really made trouble, she would inevitably be kicked out and then there would be nothing left. People were like this. There were gains and losses. Since she chose to love other people's money, she naturally had to give up her dignity. At this time, the waiter brought all 5 bottles of Petrus to the table and asked politely, "Sir, how do you open these wines?" "Open, of course, open all of them." Wang Ziming felt that he had made a breakthrough now, so he was no longer distressed about the wine money. Moreover, he was a good drinker. He wanted to take this opportunity to get Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian drunk together. Then he would have a chance to make a move. The waiter opened the wine one by one and then put a bottle in front of each of them. Wang Ziming said to Qin Haodong, "This is the first time we meet. Do you dare to have a drink?" Qin Haodong looked up at the idiot who dared to compete with him in drinking. As the saying went, wine was made of grain. As the Emperor Greenwood, he could control all things of the wood attribute. He could drink almost 1,000 cups without getting drunk. Seeing that Qin Haodong did not speak, Wang Ziming thought he was afraid. He stood up and pretended to be heroic and said, "Are you a man? If you are a man, let's have a drink." Qin Haodong said, "Well, since Boss Wang is in a mood, let's have a good time. How about 1 bottle for each person and drink it?" 1 bottle for each person? Drink it? Wang Ziming was a little dumbfounded. Although he was a good drinker, he had never drunk like this. How about it? Are you a man? If you are a man, let's have a drink. Qin Haodong returned what he had just said, but a glass became a bottle. This. Wang Ziming was still a little hesitant. If he drank such a big bottle of wine directly, he might really get drunk. Hu Shaoxian said, "What's wrong, handsome? You don't dare to drink a bottle of wine, do you?" "Impossible, a bottle of wine is a piece of cake for me." In order not to be looked down upon by Hu Shaoxian, Wang Ziming directly grabbed the bottle in front of him, put the bottle to his mouth and began to drink. When he drank half of it, he felt that the wine was coming up and he couldn't drink it anymore. But at this time, Qin Haodong had drunk the bottle of red wine in his hand like drinking water. In order to save face, Wang Ziming could only bite the bullet and drink all the remaining half bottle of wine in his hand. After drinking, he felt a little dizzy. "Handsome, good drinker, you are a man." Hu Shaoxian applauded softly. "Of course I am handsome and generous." After that, he raised his hand to grab Lu Yuqing's hand and rub the ring off her finger. Lu Yuqing's finger hurt from the rub, but she didn't dare to say anything. She was used to this kind of life. Wang Ziming held the diamond ring and said, "See? It cost 80,000 yuan for such a big diamond ring. But it's a small amount of money for me. As long as I like a woman, I am willing to spend money for her." He held the diamond ring and glanced at Qin Haodong and Long Haisheng. He said proudly, 80,000 yuan is enough for you to earn for a few years? You won't buy such a big diamond ring for a woman in your life, will you? It's nothing to me. You have seen these wines just now. They add up to 250,000 yuan. It's an astronomical figure for you. It's a huge sum of money, but it's just a meal for me. Chapter 199. However, neither Qin Haodong, Long Haisheng nor Hu Shaoxian took 80,000 yuan seriously. On the contrary, this kind of show-off was too childish for them. Seeing that no one spoke, Wang Ziming thought that these people were shocked by his generosity. He was even more proud. At this time he was already half drunk. He turned his eyes to Long Haisheng and said with a sneer, "The guy with sunglasses, you are not young. You should have been in this society for half your life. Tell me, can you afford such a big diamond ring?" Long Haisheng did not speak. This scene was a bit too dramatic. No one could have imagined that someone would dare to question and insult the leader of the underground world in Jiangnan City. "Why don't you speak? Hurt your self-esteem, isn't it? You are middle-aged but you are still so poor. Isn't it sad? Isn't it shameful?" While speaking, the prince stood up and walked to Long Haisheng. He patted him on the shoulder and said, "I hate it when people pretend to be pretentious. You are so poor but you wear sunglasses all day long. You pretend to be a gangster, don't you?" Long Haisheng's face was livid, but he still did not say a word because of his identity. Although it was the first time they met, as a member of the special department, Hu Shaoxian was clear about Long Haisheng's identity. At this time she could not help laughing. The fat man was so pretentious in front of the underground boss. He didn't know how miserable he would die later. But he couldn't blame others. It was really his own fault. Wang Ziming did not know this. He reached out and took off the sunglasses on Long Haisheng's face. He weighed them in his hand and said, "What the hell, it's still Tyrannosaurus Rex's. Now this fake is really good. It looks like the real one." Then he put the sunglasses full of fingerprints back on Long Haisheng's face. Long Haisheng was on the verge of rage at this time, but he didn't bring anyone with him today. As the boss, he couldn't do it himself, so he endured it for the time being. But once he left here, he would let Wang Ziming know what a stupid mistake he had just made. Wang Ziming was getting more and more drunk. He turned around and shouted to everyone, "You don't know how awesome I am. I have friends in both the black and the white. Let me tell you, I have just called Mr. Liu of Duku Entertainment Company. He is my best friend. He will come to have dinner with us soon. Do you feel honored?" He swayed to Hu Shaoxian and said, "Beauty, I'm very powerful. Do you believe that I can make Ouyang Shanshan drink with us with a phone call now?" These words were not entirely drunken talk. He did have a good relationship with Lu Huaqiang of Duku Entertainment Company. The company had certain business dealings, and he had spent money to sleep with several C-list celebrities of the entertainment company. In his opinion, as long as the money was in place, it would not be difficult to invite Ouyang Shanshan over. After all, no matter how famous Ouyang Shanshan was, she was still an artist working under Lu Huaqiang. He did not know that Ouyang Shanshan controlled Lu Huaqiang's life-death note and was treated like a living Buddha by Lu Huaqiang. Hu Shaoxian smiled and said, "Really? Brother, I don't believe it. Why don't you invite Ouyang Shanshan to show us?" "You don't believe it? Wait, I'll make a call now." Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed Lu Huaqiang's number. "Where is Mr. Lu? We are waiting for you to drink. Mr. Lu, can you invite Ouyang Shanshan to come over? As long as she is willing to come, I will pay as much as she wants." "What? She has something to do and has left Jiangnan." After a few minutes, he hung up the phone and said to Hu Shaoxian awkwardly, "I'm sorry, beauty. Ouyang Shanshan has something to do. She is not in Jiangnan City now. If she is here, I can definitely ask her to come over with a phone call." Although he was a little drunk, he did not completely lose his mind. In fact, Lu Huaqiang told him that Ouyang Shanshan could not come over because she had something else to do. The so-called excuse of leaving Jiangnan City was completely made up by him to cover up his embarrassment. Hu Shaoxian knew very well that Ouyang Shanshan had not left and would come here soon. She jokingly said to Wang Ziming, "Handsome, is what you said true? Did Ouyang Shanshan really leave?" "Of course it's true. If she is in Jiangnan City, she will definitely come over. I still have this little face." As he was talking, the door of the private room opened. A stunning beauty and a beautiful little girl came in together. It was Ouyang Shanshan and Tang Tang who had just finished their performance. Wang Ziming suddenly felt like a duck being strangled and could not say a word. He had just said that Ouyang Shanshan had left Jiangnan City. He did not expect that she would appear in front of him in a twinkling of an eye. Although the room was extremely quiet, everyone seemed to hear the sound of slapping in the face. Fortunately, no one paid attention to him at this time. Everyone's attention was transferred to the two beauties, one big and one small. The little fellow happily jumped into Qin Haodong's arms and said, "Papa, did I act well today?" Qin Haodong picked up his daughter, kissed her little face and said, "Good, it's very good. You will definitely become a big star in the future." At this time Wang Ziming suddenly understood. It must be that Lu Huaqiang felt embarrassed after receiving his call, so he asked Ouyang Shanshan to put off the things there and come to accompany him. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt that his face was back. He stepped forward and said to Ouyang Shanshan, "Miss Ouyang, I'm Wang Ziming. Thank you for coming to dinner." Ouyang Shanshan glanced at the fat man in front of her and said in surprise, "Who is Wang Ziming? I don't know you." Wang Ziming said, "I'm a friend of Mr. Lu. Didn't Mr. Lu ask you to come over for dinner?" "I'm sorry, I didn't get Mr. Lu's call and I don't know who you are. I'm here to find my friend." Ouyang Shanshan had seen this kind of person many times. After that, she ignored him and stepped to Qin Haodong's side and sat down. Wang Ziming stood there with his face burning and embarrassed. In less than 3 minutes he was slapped in the face twice in succession. Even if he was thick-skinned, he felt extremely ugly. He couldn't understand how Ouyang Shanshan came if she hadn't received his invitation. Was she really a friend of this little white face in front of him? How could this be possible? How could a big star know a little security guard? At this time Hu Shaoxian was on the left side of Qin Haodong, and Ouyang Shanshan was on the right side. The two beauties accompanied each other, which made Wang Ziming go crazy with jealousy. He took his mobile phone out of his pocket and dialed Lu Huaqiang's number again. He wanted to ask what was going on. But soon after he dialed, a sweet music sounded from the door, and Lu Huaqiang pushed the door and came in from the outside. Seeing Lu Huaqiang, Wang Ziming looked happy and quickly put away his mobile phone to greet him. "Brother Lu, you're here. Didn't you introduce me to Ouyang Shanshan? Why did she say she didn't know me?" "Ouyang Shanshan, is she here?" Lu Huaqiang only knew that Qin Haodong called Ouyang Shanshan away, but he didn't know where they went. He glanced around the room and suddenly saw the two people sitting opposite him. When Wang Ziming asked him to come to dinner, he had said that today he would have dinner with his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, a little security guard who had never seen the world, and asked him to come and help him. Originally, Lu Huaqiang didn't care, but at this time, when he saw Qin Haodong's security uniform, he immediately understood who the little security guard Wang Ziming was talking about was. He couldn't help crying in his heart. This was not a little security guard. He was clearly the big boss of Daddy's security company, the living ancestor that he couldn't afford to offend. At this time, he had already cursed Wang Ziming's ancestors from the beginning to the 18th generation in his heart. This was obviously a trap. Not to mention stepping on Qin Haodong, he was trembling. However, he was also an experienced man and his brain turned very fast. He pretended to say, "Oh, Brother Wang, I suddenly remembered that I have something important to do." "You're busy? I'll go first." After that, he pretended not to see Qin Haodong and Ouyang Shanshan. He turned around and ran faster than a rabbit. As for Wang Ziming's life or death, he didn't care. Wang Ziming had been completely confused. He didn't understand what was going on. Originally he wanted Lu Huaqiang to suppress Ouyang Shanshan and help him save face. But how could this man just come and leave and run so fast that he didn't even give him a chance to ask questions? Looking back at Qin Haodong, he seemed to feel the sarcasm in Hu Xiaoxian's eyes. No, I must get back this face today. Since the legal way doesn't work, then I'll find the underworld. Thinking of this, Wang Ziming turned into the bathroom, took out his mobile phone and dialed a phone number. Cousin? I'm having dinner with someone in dreamy Jiangnan. There's a guy who doesn't give me face. Come and help me teach him a lesson and support me. Don't worry, I'll definitely pay for my brother's hard work. After Wolf left Lin's group with Guo Xiaomei, he took her directly to his base camp, Black Rose Bar. This time he lost 1 million yuan in vain. Of course he couldn't pay the money himself. He had to squeeze it from Guo Xiaomei. However, Guo Xiaomei didn't have so much money. After suffering a lot, she barely took out 500,000 yuan. She also gave Wolf an IOU of 500,000 yuan. Then she was left in the bar as a waitress. Miss Tai, when she paid off the debt, she could leave. Although the matter had been solved, Wolf was still very depressed. He was sitting in the bar drinking when he suddenly received a call from Wang Ziming. Hearing that Wang Ziming was willing to pay for him to trample on people, he couldn't help but feel excited. He just happened to get back some of the losses of the past 2 days. But now he was also a little scared. He was afraid to go out and meet Qin Haodong again. He quickly asked, "Is the person you said a doctor?" Wang Ziming said, "Not a doctor, just a small security guard. He has no background at all." Hearing that it was not a doctor, Wolf was immediately relieved. As long as it was not Qin Haodong, he was not afraid. He patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, such a small person, I promise to trample on him. How far do you want me to go?" Thinking of Qin Haodong's handsome face, Wang Ziming was jealous to death. He said fiercely, "Break the boy's legs and then scrape his face. I like his woman and I want her." It's easy to do, but you have to pay 500,000 yuan after it's done. Wolf opened his mouth and was ready to get back the 500,000 yuan he had just lost from Wang Ziming. Although the price was a little expensive, Wang Ziming gritted his teeth and said, "No problem." Wolf said, "That's a deal. You wait, my cousin will be here in 5 minutes." After the phone call, Wang Ziming suddenly had confidence. He thought that these bumpkins who had never seen the world would be scared to death when the wild wolf came. Chapter 200. The Boss of the Underworld? Hu Xiaoxian inadvertently glanced at Long Haixing, who was sulking next to her, and said, "Are you sure your cousin is the boss of the underworld?" "Of course, my cousin is the absolute boss in the underground world of Jiangnan City. He can recruit hundreds of brothers by whistling." The more Wang Ziming bragged, the more ugly Long Haixing's face became. At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open from the outside, and Wolf rushed in with a dozen gangsters. "Look, my cousin is here," Wang Ziming said excitedly to Wolf and shouted to the people in the room, "Pay attention to me. Let me introduce him grandly. This is my cousin Wolf, the boss of the underworld in Jiangnan City." After he said that, he saw that Qin Haodong and others did not move. He shouted arrogantly, "Are you all F***king fools? What are you still doing there? Get up and meet my cousin." After roaring, he felt much more comfortable all over. He had wanted to call Qin Haodong over tonight and trample on him, but he had not succeeded yet. Now with the support of the wild wolf, he seemed to have seen the scene of Qin Haodong's legs being broken and Hu Xiaoxian being thrown on the bed. Qin Haodong looked at him playfully and said lightly, "Let us meet him. Do you ask him if he is qualified?" Wang Ziming cried, "Boy, do you want to die? Can't you open your eyes? My cousin is the boss of the underworld. You say he is not qualified. Are you qualified?" After Wolf entered the room, his line of sight was blocked by Wang Ziming's fat body, so he did not see Qin Haodong and Long Haixing. At this time he heard a familiar voice, so he quickly bypassed Wang Ziming and looked forward. At this moment he suddenly had a feeling of seeing a ghost. Although the man in front of him was wearing a security uniform, it was Qin Haodong. He did not expect that he was afraid and careful again and again, and finally met this man again. This was not the end. Then he saw Long Haixing sitting next to him with a livid face. This time he almost cried out. He ran to the boss and called him the boss of the underworld. Wasn't he looking for death? Why were these two people here? It seemed that Wang Ziming did not know Qin Haodong and Long Haixing. He dared to shout at these two men. He was simply impatient to die. Wang Ziming did not find the strangeness of Wolf. Since he had found a helper, the next step was to provoke the war and then let Wolf help him. He felt very unhappy when he saw that Long Haixing didn't even say a word. He took 2 steps forward and pulled off the glasses on Long Haixing's face. He reached out and patted Long Haixing's cheek. He shouted arrogantly, "Are you stupid? Why are you wearing broken glasses in front of my cousin? Do you want to die?" He didn't think much of it, but the wolf behind him was so scared that his bones had gone soft. He really wanted to die now. Who was Long Haixing? He has controlled the underground world of Jiangnan for more than 10 years, and his means are extremely ruthless. Now Wang Ziming, this idiot, dared to take off his glasses and slap his face. Do you have a death wish? At this time, Wolf couldn't care less anymore. He kicked Wang Ziming to the ground and then turned to his gangsters and shouted, beat him to death. No one is allowed to stop until I speak." After that, he knelt in front of Long Haixing and said, "Dr. Qin, Grand Chief, I deserve to die, but I really didn't know that this idiot dared to provoke you too." At this time Wang Ziming was beaten by the gangsters with steel pipes. He cried in horror, "Cousin, did you hit the wrong person?" Lu Yuqing, who had been silent all this time, also turned pale with fright. As a college student who had not yet left the campus, she had never thought that the scene on TV would appear in front of her. Seeing her boyfriend being beaten like a dog by gangsters, she wanted to help, but when she saw those dark steel pipes and shiny daggers, she did not have the courage. On the contrary, the little fellow in Qin Haodong's arms was much calmer than her. The little fellow had seen her father teach gangsters a lesson, and she had experienced the battle with Taoist Dao Tong. These small scenes did not affect her at all. She did not even look at Wang Ziming. She concentrated on enjoying a plate of braised ribs in front of her. "What do you think I'm doing?" Wolf gnashed his teeth angrily and cried, "I must kill you today, you ignorant thing," for our dragon head to vent his anger. Qin Haodong looked at Wolf with a playful face. This professional cousin was really destined to meet him. He had bumped into him again and again these days. Wang Ziming was beaten to the ground and cried, "Cousin, we are relatives. You can't do this. Is there any misunderstanding between us?" "Misunderstanding your grandma?" Wolf scolded angrily and raised his hand to stop the gangsters. He looked at Long Haixing and asked Wang Ziming, "Do you know who this man is?" Wang Ziming wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth. The drunkenness was completely gone. At this time, even if he had no brain, he could see that the identity of the middle-aged man wearing sunglasses was not simple. Otherwise the wolf would not be scared like this. Wolf cried, "Remember, this is Mr. Long, the dragon head of Jiangnan City?" This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, blasting Wang Ziming to a crisp on the outside and tender on the inside. He never thought that the middle-aged man he did not see at all turned out to be the king of the underground world of Jiangnan City, Long Haixing. At this time, a huge chill rose from the soles of his feet and quickly spread all over his body. As a man of Jiangnan City, it was impossible for him not to know Long Haixing's reputation. God, what did he do? He took off his glasses twice and reached out to pat his face. Wang Ziming really wanted to kill himself on the wall, but he did not have the courage. "Tell me, do you deserve to die?" Wolf said ferociously. What he was most afraid of now was that Long Haixing would vent his anger on him. The dragon head had not spoken until now, so he had no confidence at all. Wang Ziming came to his senses and knelt down in front of Long Haixing. "Forgive me, dragon head. I was blind. I didn't recognize Mount Tai. I deserve to die. I really deserve to die." Long Haixing finally spoke. He pointed to Qin Haodong and said in a cold voice, "Apologize to my brother first. If he doesn't forgive you today, you must die." Wang Ziming looked at Qin Haodong with a blank face. He was very puzzled. Wasn't this a small security guard? How could he become the brother of the dragon head? Today he wanted to trample on this toy boy. He didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate. Now his life was in the hands of others. Long Haixing was famous for his cruelty. He had no doubt about the authenticity of his words. As long as Qin Haodong was not satisfied, he was afraid that he would say goodbye to the colorful world. Thinking of this, he did not dare to delay. He knelt directly in front of Qin Haodong. He raised his hand and slapped himself in the face. He said, "I'm sorry. I was wrong today." At this moment, looking at Wang Ziming kneeling on the ground, Lu Yuqing's mood was extremely complicated. She thought that refusing Qin Haodong and accepting this rich child was the best choice in her life. But now it seemed that it was really right. At the same time, she was also full of doubts. Qin Haodong was her college classmate. His family had always been poor. He had been working outside and studying. Just now he was a security guard in the stadium. How could he become the brother of the Jiangnan dragon head in a twinkling of an eye? Qin Haodong looked at Wang Ziming kneeling on the ground and said, "Get out of here. Don't affect my daughter's meal." Thank you. Thank you." Wang Ziming apologized again and again. Wolf slapped him in the face and scolded, Dr. Qin let you go. He is generous but you can't know what's good for you. Wolf was now trying his best to leave a good impression on Long Haixing. Then, what do you want me to do? Wang Ziming asked, covering his face. How much should I pay? 10 million. Wild Wolf not only used Qin Haodong's method of punishing him on Wang Ziming, but also increased it tenfold. Isn't it too much? Can you reduce it a little? Wang Ziming asked with some pain. All his current liquidity was barely more than 10 million yuan. Bullshit. Wolf raised his hand and slapped Qin Haodong's face again. You offended Dr. Qin. It's already a great gift for you to pay for your life. How dare you bargain with him? I'll give it now. Wang Ziming took his handbag tremblingly, took out the checkbook from it, wrote a check of 10 million yuan and sent it to Wolf. After Wolf took the check, he sent it to Qin Haodong with a flattering face and said, Dr. Qin, are you satisfied? Qin Haodong wiped the soup on the corner of the little fellow's mouth with a tissue and said, Put it aside. Well, Mr. Qin, I'll put it here for you. Then Wolf respectfully put the check on the table in front of Qin Haodong. Lu Yuqing looked at all this with a dull expression. She once asked Qin Haodong if he had a house in Jiangnan. Did he have a BMW? Did he have millions of savings? But now he casually took a check of 10 million yuan and didn't even look at it. In contrast, her request was too low. After Wolf put the check, he turned to Long Haixing and said, Long Tu, what do you think of this guy? Long Haixing said in a cold voice, Since my brother asked him to get out, then spare his life and let him get out quickly. Did you hear that? Big Dragon is merciful. You can go away. Wolf said and kicked Wang Ziming's butt. Yes, I'll get out now. Wang Ziming turned around and ran. He bumped into Long Haixing and was able to get out alive, which was equivalent to saving his life. As for Lu Yuqing next to him, he didn't even look at her. Women were just playthings in his eyes. Lu Yuqing was stunned and didn't know what to do for a while. Hu Shaoxian looked at her with a smile and said, Do you know that the biggest mistake you made in your life is to miss the best man? It's nothing to have a house in Jiangnan. The little man's family has a villa of more than 2,000 square meters. I came out to watch the concert because I felt that the house was too big. The little man doesn't have a BMW, but he has a Lamborghini worth 40 million yuan, which can buy dozens of BMWs. As for how much money he has, I don't know, but I guess it's more than 9 figures. Lu Yuqing seemed to be greatly stimulated. She screamed, It's impossible. He's obviously a little security guard. I just saw him in the stadium. Hu Shaoxian said, Do you think he's a security guard in a security uniform? Have you heard of the most famous daddy security company in Jiangnan? The little man is the big boss of the company. Today, because Daddy Security Company is responsible for the security work of Miss Ouyang's performance, he wore the security uniform for a while. How could this be? How could this be? Qin Haodong said to Lu Yuqing in a cold voice, Did you hear that? Do you still think it's too much? For a scumbag like him, I asked him to get lost because we used to be classmates. You can give up your dignity for money. You can tolerate him seducing other women in front of you. That's your choice. But I won't spoil his mistakes. He has to pay the price for making mistakes. You go. From now on we're no longer classmates. We're strangers when we meet. Lu Yuqing looked at Qin Haodong with a complicated expression. In the end she did not speak. Like a walking corpse without a soul, she walked out of the private room step by step. At this time, Wang Ziming and Lu Yuqing were two insignificant people in Qin Haodong's heart. After this matter was over, they began to have a pleasant midnight snack. After dinner, Qin Haodong sent someone to escort Long Haixing home. He said goodbye to Ouyang Shanshan and then got in the car with Hu Shaoxian and the little fellow. Qin Haodong drove and Hu Shaoxian held the little fellow. And Shaoxian, are you going to live in my house too? Tang Tang asked with her arms around his neck. Hu Shaoxian said, I'm not going to your house. I'm going to your father's house. Why go to Dad's house? Do you want to be my mother too? Hu Shaoxian glanced at Qin Haodong and then said with a smile, Yes, do you like it? Yes, I like beautiful mommy best. The little fellow said cheerfully. Hu Shaoxian turned to Qin Haodong and said, Did you hear that? Tang Tang has agreed to our relationship. Qin Haodong was speechless. He thought to himself, What's going on? Do I need my daughter's consent to find a girlfriend? Back at Lin's villa, Qin Haodong asked Hu Shaoxian to go upstairs first. He coaxed the little fellow to sleep before returning home. After entering the door, he found that all the lights in the rooms were off, except for his own room. When he opened the door, he saw Hu Shaoxian lying on his bed. Her hair was wet and her skin was faintly flushed. It was obvious that she had just taken a bath. Most importantly, she was wearing a pink nightgown. Compared to the black nightgown, the color of this nightgown was more ambiguous. The material was more transparent and light, and it made her look even sexier. Qin Haodong raised his hand and touched his hot nose. He said, "What are you doing? Why are you in my bed? Don't you know what I'm going to do?" Hu Shaoxian gently bounced up from the bed as if she was weightless. Then she swayed her sexy body and came to Qin Haodong. She stretched out two lotus root-like arms and hooked his neck. Her voice was so coquettish. "Little man, since I've agreed to be with you, you can do it." No, I'd better go to another room to live." Qin Haodong turned his head and wanted to run, but Hu Shaoxian pulled his arm back. She said with a smile, "Little man, it's not so easy to run away. I must sleep with you tonight." As a man, Qin Haodong never thought that he would be pushed by a woman. Naturally, he would not give in like this. However, his cultivation was only at the 9th level of overt power, which was much worse than Hu Shaoxian's 2nd level of covert power. The result of his desperate struggle was that his acupoints were blocked. Seeing that his behavior was restrained, Qin Haodong hurriedly cried, "Hu Shaoxian, stop. What are you going to do?" "Little man, didn't I tell you what I was going to do?" Hu Shaoxian smiled. She raised her hand and pulled off Qin Haodong's coat. Then she untied his belt and pulled off his trousers. "Hey, stop it right now." Qin Haodong still wanted to say something, but Hu Shaoxian raised her hand and blocked his mute acupoint. Then she kissed him on the cheek and said, "You're too noisy." "That's good." After that, she threw Qin Haodong on the bed with only a pair of trousers left. Qin Haodong secretly complained. Although his genuine qi was extremely pure, his cultivation was a level lower than Hu Shaoxian's. It was not possible to break through the acupoints in a short time. At this time, Hu Shaoxian began to untie her clothes and slowly took off her pink pajamas that were better than nothing. Her beautiful figure that could drive countless men crazy was revealed in front of Qin Haodong without any cover. "How is it? Do I look good?" Hu Shaoxian said coquettishly. Qin Haodong felt that his nostrils were getting hotter and hotter. He was afraid that if it went on like this, he would have a nosebleed. He wanted to close his eyes, but he was reluctant to give up the beautiful scenery in front of him. Hu Shaoxian also got on the bed and lay beside Qin Haodong. First, she gently pecked on his lips, and then stretched out her two white and tender hands to take off his last underwear. Qin Haodong, who was originally unwilling to be bound, was immediately exposed to the air with his head held high and chest out. "It's over," Qin Haodong secretly complained. He didn't expect that the first time after his rebirth would be pushed down by someone like this. However, looking at the extremely beautiful Hu Shaoxian, he faintly had an instinctive expectation in his heart. Unexpectedly, what happened next shocked him. Hu Shaoxian held him in her arms, patted his face and said, "Well, let's go to sleep." Qin Haodong almost vomited blood. Did she make such a big scene and make such a scene just to sleep with him in her arms? How could he be worthy of being the second in command? But in fact, Hu Shaoxian didn't care about his emotions at all. She directly hugged his neck, and they fell asleep in each other's arms. In the beginning, Qin Haodong felt Hu Shaoxian's tender and smooth skin, his nostrils were filled with a strong body fragrance, and his blood was in a state of boiling. However, Hu Shaoxian really fell asleep and she slept very soundly. Soon there came the sound of even breathing. It seemed that when Hu Shaoxian said that she wanted to sleep with him, she really just wanted to sleep with him and had no other meaning. This made Qin Haodong and his second-in-command extremely disappointed, and soon they slowly fell asleep. The next day when Qin Haodong got up, although the fragrance was still there, the beauty in his arms had disappeared. The acupoints on his body had been unsealed. Qin Haodong quickly got up from the bed and put on his clothes again. He looked around but didn't find Hu Shaoxian, but he saw a note on the bedside. The handwriting on the note was very beautiful. It said, "Little man, when you see this note, I have already left. Do you like the way you slept last night? Are you happy or disappointed?" Qin Haodong touched his nose. At this moment, his mood was really very complicated. He didn't know whether he was happy or disappointed. From a rational point of view, he really didn't want to have sex with Hu Shaoxian in such a muddle-headed way, but from a man's instinct, he missed the opportunity to sleep with such a beautiful woman. On the bed. It was a pity that he had a single chance. After calming himself down, he picked up the note and continued to read, "In fact, you don't have to be happy or disappointed. I said that you are my man, and you can't escape from my palm in this life. Looking at your lack of self-control, it must be your first time. In fact, I am the same. I have never seen a man's body before. Because of this I am very careful. The women of our celestial fox sect attach great importance to their first time, and it also has extraordinary significance. You will know later. Qin Haodong knew this very clearly. Although Hu Xiaoxin's performance was foxy and affectionate as a brilliant doctor, he could see that this woman was still a virgin, and the appearance was just an illusion. Little man, the reason why I was anxious to sleep with you last night was that I had something to do. There was a task for me to do and I don't know when I will come back. But you can rest assured that as long as the task is over, I will come back to you. At that time it may be different to sleep with you. How about it, are you looking forward to it? That was the end of the note. Behind it was a little fox's smiling face, and below it were 2 words, Xiaoxian. What a little fox who tortures people. Chapter 202. In order to find out the origin of the 9-dragon tripod, Qin Haodong once told Fatty Wang to call him as soon as the grave robber named Dilong appeared. Now Fatty Wang's phone call came. Did Dilong appear? Now he was trapped in the bottleneck of the Foundation realm, and his cultivation could not be improved at all, which made him extremely depressed. At this time, Fatty Wang's phone call finally made him feel hot, and he couldn't wait to press the answer button. Sure enough, as soon as the phone was connected, Fatty Wang's eager voice came from the other side. Dr. Qin, Dilong just called me and wanted to make a deal with me. Great. Qin Haodong said, tell me the time and place of your appointment. At 9 o'clock this morning, in a small valley outside the western suburbs of Jiangnan City. Qin Haodong said in surprise, 9 o'clock in the morning? Don't deals like yours usually take place at night? Dilong is very cunning and always likes to do the opposite. Most of the time he deals with me is during the day and rarely at night. Qin Haodong said, well, I'll go to you now. Let's go together. Soon he drove to Fatty Wang's house, parked the car in Fatty Wang's yard, and then got in Fatty Wang's pickup truck. They went out of the urban area of Jiangnan City and came to a mountainous area outside the city. After a few turns, Fatty Wang finally parked the car in a small valley. It had to be said that this was really a good place for underground trading. It was not only very hidden, but also accessible in all directions. Once the police came, it was also convenient to escape. When they arrived, an SUV was already parked there. A skinny, middle-aged man who was only 1.6 meters tall, was standing in front of the car and smoking. His eyes glanced around from time to time, looking extremely vigilant. Fatty Wang told Qin Haodong, he is Dilong, a master of grave robbing. The 9-dragon tripod was bought from him. This man has always been very careful and always deals one-on-one. He will run when he sees you later. Qin Haodong said, you just need to park the car. He can't run away. Then he parked the pickup truck in front of the SUV. When he saw Qin Haodong and Fatty Wang get off together, Dilong's face flashed with vigilance. Then he turned his head and ran to the SUV, twisting his butt and jumping into the driver's seat. His movements were extremely fast. However, Qin Haodong's speed was even faster. He almost turned into a shadow and came behind him. He reached out to grab his arm and pulled him out of the car. Dilong was not weak. When he was pulled out of the car, he pulled out a shiny dagger from the back of his waist with his right hand and stabbed Qin Haodong's neck with a cold light. This stab was fierce and fast. Could be seen that this guy was definitely a ruthless character. Qin Haodong raised his hand and knocked away his dagger. Then he grabbed his neck, lifted his thin body and slammed it against the body of the SUV. He said in a cold voice, behave yourself or I'll send you to heaven. Dilong knew that he had met a tough character today and did not dare to act rashly. He turned his head and cried, Fatty Wang, you didn't follow the rules and sold me to the police? Fatty Wang said, Dilong, you misunderstood. This is my benefactor. He is not a policeman. He just wants to ask you something. Hearing that Qin Haodong was not a policeman, Dilong's expression eased a lot, but he still said, we have our own rules in the gambling circle. We can't tell outsiders anything. It's useless for you to ask. Qin Haodong said, I just want to ask you one thing. Where did the 9-dragon tripod come from? Just tell me where it is. Dilong said stubbornly, no, it's not in line with the rules of our gambling circle. I can't tell you. Seeing this guy was angry with him, Qin Haodong didn't bother to pay attention to him. A cold light flashed in his eyes and he directly used mind bewitching. Then he let go of Dilong's neck and asked, tell me, where did the 9-dragon tripod come from? After being bewitched, Dilong immediately became obedient. He said honestly, I found it in an underground palace in Shenangjia. Fatty Wang was very surprised. He didn't understand why Dilong, who had a bad temper just now, suddenly became obedient, but he didn't care. He turned around and went for a walk. Qin Haodong asked, "How did you get it? Tell me in detail." Dilong said, "In recent years the business of gambling has become more and more difficult. The big ancient tombs are officially protected, and the unprotected ones have been stolen countless times. There is nothing at all. I had no choice but to go to Shenangjia. In ancient times, some rich people set their tombs in the deep mountains to prevent tomb robbers. I wanted to try my luck and see if I could find an ancient tomb that had not been stolen. But my luck was not good. After entering Shenangjia, I was caught in the fog. Soon I got lost. Then I lost my footing and fell off the cliff. I fell unconscious. When I regained consciousness again, I was already in an underground building. I carefully observed that it was not an ancient tomb, but an underground palace." Qin Haodong was secretly happy. This should be the cultivator's relic he was looking for. Dilong continued, "I broke my left arm and right leg at that time, and it was very difficult for me to move. Later, I found a stone room next to it with a 9-dragon tripod and some bottles and jars in it. I was very hungry at that time. In order to survive, I climbed into the room and tried to find something to eat. Unexpectedly, there was nothing to eat in the stone room but all kinds of small pills. At first, I was afraid that these pills were poisonous, so I didn't dare to take them. Later, the pain was too severe and I was hungry. Anyway, I would die sooner or later, so I chose a fragrant black pill and ate it. Unexpectedly, after taking a pill, not only the injuries of my arms and legs were all healed, but I no longer felt hungry. At that time, I was sure that I had just eaten an elixir of life, but I didn't know which of the remaining pills was elixir of life and which was poisonous, so I didn't dare to eat them again. After the injury was healed, I wandered around in the underground palace and didn't find anything too good. Later, I moved the 9-dragon tripod and felt that this big guy was not too heavy, so I took it out of the underground palace and sold it to Fatty Wang." Qin Haodong asked, "Where is the underground palace? Can you still find it?" Dilong said, "After coming out of the underground palace, I found a few more companions and wanted to go back and bring more good things out. At least those bottles and cans were antiques which could be sold for a lot of money. But when we went back, we couldn't find the entrance to the underground palace no matter what. When we left, I made a lot of unique marks. According to the marks, we should have found the gate of the underground palace. In fact, there was only a piece of stone there and we couldn't find the gate at all. We had no choice but to return." At this time, Qin Haodong had confirmed that the underground palace was the relic of a cultivator. The earth dragon had fallen into it by accident, but all the cultivators' cave residences had protective tactical deployments. The tactical deployments would change every once in a while. Because of this, although he had left a mark, it was impossible for him to find the door of the cave residence. If he wanted to re-enter the cave, he had to break the protective formations of the cave. He said, "Where is the underground palace in Shenangjia? Can you draw me a map?" "No problem." Dilong agreed directly. People like them, who were proficient in the art of feng shui, were also very good at drawing. Dilong took out paper and pen from the car, and quickly drew a detailed map and handed it to Qin Haodong. Dilong pointed to a small red circle in the center of the map and said, "This is the last place I marked, but I can't find the gate of the underground palace at all." "That's none of your business." Qin Haodong directly erased Dilong's memory, and then left with Fatty Wang in the car. When Dilong woke up, he would only feel that he had just slept, and there would be no memory left. After leaving Fatty Wang's house, Qin Haodong had made up his mind to go to Shenangjia to explore the relics of the cultivators. Since the last incident with Dao Tong, he realized that his ability could not completely protect the safety of the little fellow. He must make himself stronger. Perhaps this underground palace was his chance to break through the bottleneck of the Foundation realm. But before going on a long journey, he had to be fully prepared. First, he went to the supermarket and bought a lot of things which he secretly put into the storage ring. After all, the trip to the underground palace was full of unknowns. It was good to prepare more necessities such as food. Moreover, his ring was big enough to put the whole supermarket. Later, he bought a lot of cinnabar, yellow marker paper and other items. When he got home, he began to draw all kinds of talismans. For example, teleportation talisman, invisibility talisman, and water repellent talisman. Although these were the lowest talismans, sometimes they played a key role. Especially now that he had not reached the Foundation establishment stage, there were many spells that he could not use directly. What about the talismans that he had drawn? Carved talismans could help a lot. After all these things were done, it was sunset. When he came to the Lin's villa, Lin Momo had already taken the little fellow home. "Papa, why didn't you pick me up?" the little fellow asked, holding Qin Haodong's neck. "Because Papa is going to take you on a trip, so I have to make some preparations in advance." "Great. Great. I'm going out to play with Papa." The little fellow jumped up cheerfully. Qin Haodong asked her to go out with Damao and Mao, and then said to Lin Momo, "I have something to discuss with you. You're not really going to take me on a trip, are you?" Lin Momo thought for a moment and said, "How about we go together in a few days after we're busy?" "It's not what you think." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "I think you can see that I'm not an ordinary person." Lin Momo nodded. Since this young man appeared in her life, she did see a lot of things she had never seen before, such as martial arts cultivators, and the flame on the little fellow's body that could spontaneously ignite. "I said I would protect you and Tang Tang for a lifetime, but now my martial arts cultivation has reached a bottleneck, and I have to find some opportunities to improve." Qin Haodong briefly told her about the Shenangjia Underground Palace and said, "So I want to go to Shenangjia to see if there is anything good in the Underground Palace that can help me improve my cultivation." Lin Momo nodded but still asked, "I understand, but you can go there. Why do you have to take Tang Tang with you?" Qin Haodong said, "You've seen Tang Tang's special constitution. She has the Suzaku sacred body, which is extremely rare in martial arts. She is destined to not be an ordinary person in this life." Chapter 203. Lin Momo could understand Qin Haodong's words. If the little fellow suddenly burst into flames again, she really didn't know what to do. She couldn't spray it with a fire extinguisher. However, she was still a little worried and said, "Tang Tang is so young. Will it be dangerous to go to a place like Shenangjia?" "There must be danger. As a warrior you will face all kinds of dangers all the time. However, danger always coexists with opportunity. Only when there is danger can there be improvement. I will do my best to protect Tang Tang. As long as I am alive, my daughter will not be hurt." Lin Momo knew very well how much Qin Haodong loved the little fellow and believed what he said. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "Well, I agree to go to Shenangjia with you, but you must be careful and come back safely. Don't worry, we will be fine." Qin Haodong was not too worried about this kind of adventure. When he was in the cultivation world, he had explored all kinds of famous mountains and rivers and entered all kinds of dangerous forbidden places. He was very experienced. Although his cultivation was a little low now, he was familiar with all kinds of formations and mechanisms. He was confident that he could solve all kinds of problems he encountered. In this way, the next day, Qin Haodong left Jiangnan City with the little fellow and took a plane directly to Shenangjia in Yi Province. Shenangjia was one of the most mysterious areas in Wuxia. Legend had it that Shenong Yen Emperor, the ancestor of Wuxia, built a frame here to collect herbs and taste all kinds of herbs to save people from dying. Shenong, the ancient sage, had a high position in the hearts of Wuxia people. The Taoists respected him as Shenong the Great Emperor. The legend of Shenong tasting herbs was known to all Wuxia people. He created the Chinese medicine culture, which had been passed down to this day. Qin Haodong had a full understanding of Shenangjia before coming here. The existing forest area here was 1,618 square kilometers. Because of the large area, many areas had not been explored by human beings and maintained a primitive ecological environment. Because of this, there were many rumors about Shenangjia. There were many unknown things in the legends, such as savages. In recent years, many scientific expeditions and private backpackers had come to Shenangjia to explore this unknown area. In the end, many people disappeared after entering Shenangjia. Although the government had carried out many searches, they still found nothing, not even their corpses. However, with the development of the economy, the periphery of Shenangjia still developed a large number of tourism resources, and tourists came here in an endless stream. This was the route drawn by Dilong. The periphery first passed through the tourist area, and then went deep into Shenangjia. Because of this, Qin Haodong took the little fellow and followed many tourists into Shenangjia. They played as they walked and they lived a happy life. A day later, the father and daughter had already passed through the periphery of Shenangjia and arrived at the edge of the tourist area. There were much fewer tourists here than before. Near noon, the little fellow cried, "Papa, I'm hungry. If you're hungry, let's eat." Qin Haodong was about to take out the food from the storage ring when he saw a farmhouse restaurant with a sign not far away. They were about to go deep into the no-man's land of Shenangjia. It would be impossible to eat in a restaurant in the future, so Qin Haodong changed his mind and took the little fellow to the restaurant. The restaurant was completely made of wood and looked a little shabby. There was a sign hanging at the door on which the words "Game House" were written crookedly. After Qin Haodong went in, A fat middle-aged boss immediately greeted him and asked enthusiastically, "Young man, what do you want to eat?" "Tang Tang, what do you want to eat?" Qin Haodong asked the little fellow. "I want to eat noodles." The little fellow cried. "Well, give me 2 bowls of noodles," Qin Haodong said as he turned over the shabby menu on the table. There were not many kinds of dishes and there was no vegetable at all. The price of the dishes was not too expensive, but in the principle of not wasting, he only ordered a spicy pheasant and a dish of soy sauce beef. Because the geographical location was too remote and there were few tourists, only the father and daughter ate. Soon, 2 bowls of shredded meat noodles, a pheasant, and a plate of soy sauce beef were served. Qin Haodong tasted the noodles and found they tasted good. He pulled a chicken wing and 2 slices of beef, put them in the bowl of the little fellow and then ate them himself. After eating a few mouthfuls, the little fellow stretched out 2 white and tender fingers and picked up a hair from the bowl. "Papa, there is hair in the noodles." It was located in the deep mountains and the sanitary conditions were poor, but Qin Haodong didn't care too much. He raised his hand and shouted to the fat boss, "Brother, there is hair in this bowl of noodles. Please change it." After hearing his words, the boss's greasy face immediately sank and he said in a cold voice, "Young man, our restaurant is very clean. How can there be hair? Are you trying to blackmail me?" Qin Haodong glanced at the boss and thought that this guy was not a pure mountain person. He even knew such a fashionable thing as blackmail. He said, "I didn't ask you to pay for it and I didn't ask you to pay for it. How can it be blackmail? Can't you change the bowl of noodles because there is hair in it?" The boss shook his big head and said, "No, this hair is not from our restaurant at all. It must have been brought by you." Qin Haodong didn't want to argue with him and said, "Well, I'll buy another bowl, okay?" The boss said, "You can buy another bowl but you have to pay for the meal first." Qin Haodong really didn't want to talk nonsense with the fat boss, so he said, "Well, tell me, how much is it?" "Hurry up, we are in a hurry." The fat boss said, "It's a total of 404,000 yuan. I don't want the change of 4,000 yuan. You give me 400,000 yuan. Qin Haodong laughed when he heard this. He put down his chopsticks and said, "Boss, I just said that I was going to blackmail you. You are too cruel. Who are you saying is ripping off the customer? I marked the price clearly. It's not a blackmail if there is a price. You ordered it yourself." The fat boss threw the broken menu in front of Qin Haodong again. "Look, it's written clearly on it. 20 yuan for 1 noodle, 100 noodles in each bowl, 2,000 yuan in total. 100 yuan for 1 gram of flavored pheasant, and this chicken is 2,000 grams, 200,000 yuan in total. 200 yuan for 1 slice of spiced beef, and this plate has 100 slices, so it's also 200,000 yuan in total. It's not much and it's just right." Qin Haodong glanced at the menu and saw that there was a unit behind the price, but the words were so small that he couldn't see it without the microscope. He didn't care at all just now. He laughed and said, "Are you playing word games with me?" The fat boss cried, "Don't talk nonsense, I don't have time to play with you. It's natural to pay for the meal. Pay the bill quickly." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "What if I don't have money to pay? No money to pay?" The fat boss smiled and turned to the direction of the kitchen and shouted, "Brothers, someone is going to eat and dash." As soon as his voice fell, 7 or 8 big men suddenly rushed out of the kitchen. These people were obviously ready in the kitchen, holding all kinds of knives in their hands and their faces were fierce. The fat boss cried, "How about it? Pay or not?" Qin Haodong said, "Boss, you want 400,000 yuan as soon as you open your mouth. It's much faster than robbing a bank. I don't think you are robbing money but people." The fat boss laughed and said, "You're right. If you have money you can buy 2 of your lives with 400,000 yuan. If you don't have money I'll sell you both together. This little girl is so cute that she can be sold for 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. A pretty boy like you can also be liked by a rich woman. Although it can't be sold for 400,000 yuan, it's not a big loss for me." As he spoke he felt a little strange. In the past, when he robbed people, the customers always showed panic. After all, this place was too remote. Even if he killed people and threw them into the deep forest, no one would know. But the big one and the little one in front of him were completely different. They were not bold and did not look flustered at all. Even the little fellow seemed to not see these people, holding the chicken wings in her hands and eating them. Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Then you can try." This was indeed a good place to kill people and dump their bodies. If these guys really acted recklessly, he didn't mind sending them to hell. The little fellow also became excited. While gnawing the chicken wings she cried, "Papa, beat the bad guys. Papa, beat the bad guys. Boy, you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin." The fat boss waved to his men behind him and said, "Teach them a lesson. Be careful not to hurt the little girl or it will be difficult to sell her." Those people answered and were about to rush to Qin Haodong with the knives in their hands. Just when Qin Haodong was about to kill all these people, there was a roar of motors at the door. Two brand new Hummer SUVs stopped at the door. Seeing someone coming, the fat boss and his men stopped together and turned to look at the door. After the Hummer was parked, 6 people jumped out of the car, led by a man and a woman. The man was tall and handsome, and the woman was not only beautiful without a single flaw, but her smile was also charming. As long as it was a male creature, it would not be able to help but take a few more glances. After the woman entered the store, she did not panic at all when she saw the big men with knives in their hands. Instead, she smiled and said, "What's going on? Are you opening a store or robbing?" "Aunt Xiaoxian, I'm here." The little fellow's eyes were sharp. She saw Hu Xiaoxian at once and immediately cried out happily. Qin Haodong was also secretly surprised. Hu Xiaoxian left a note saying that she was going to perform a special task. He did not expect to meet her here again in the blink of an eye. Because her sight was blocked by those big men, Hu Xiaoxian saw Qin Haodong and the little fellow at this time. She cried out in surprise, "Tang Tang, little man, why are you here?" After leaving Qin Haodong's home, she went back to meet her companions in the Xian department of Xianyuan Pavilion and made some preparations for entering the mountain, so she came a little late. "I didn't expect you to be a group." The fat boss stared at Hu Xiaoxian with a greedy look on his delicate face. He shouted to his men, "Kill them all together. Kill all the men and keep the women. Let's warm the bed together at night." Those big men had already been fascinated by Hu Xiaoxian. After receiving the order, they immediately rushed up with a howl, waved the knives in their hands, and attacked Hu Xiaoxian's companions. The young man next to Hu Xiaoxian looked cold and shouted to the 4 men behind him, "Break all their limbs and throw them into the forest to feed the bears." The 4 men answered and immediately went up. They were all first-class masters, and their cultivation had all reached the 9th level of overt power. When gangsters met warriors, there was only one result, that was, they were one-sided abused. Soon the 7 or 8 thugs were put down to the ground and all their limbs were broken. Their screams scared the birds around them to fly away. Chapter 204. Seeing that the situation was not good, the fat boss begged for mercy again and again. "Mercy, please let me go. I can give you money, I can give you a lot of money." Hu Xiaoxian smiled at him charmingly and said, "Keep your money and talk to the wild beasts. See if they won't eat you for the sake of money." After that, she moved like lightning. First, she broke the fat boss's legs, then twisted his arms and then kicked him out of the window. At the same time, her companions also threw the fat boss's men out of the window. Outside the shop was the virgin forest, and they believed that there would soon be wild beasts coming to enjoy the delicious food. After dealing with the fat boss, Hu Xiaoxian came to Qin Haodong with a smile, as if she had done a trivial thing. She sat down next to Qin Haodong with a smile on her face. She also reached out and hugged his arm. Her 2 full breasts were tightly pressed against him. Seeing that Hu Xiaoxian and Qin Haodong were so intimate, several of her companions were shocked, especially the young leader, whose face immediately became gloomy. Hu Xiaoxian ignored other people's emotions and said charmingly to Qin Haodong, "Little man, why are you here? Don't tell me he's here for me?" Qin Haodong didn't expect to meet Hu Xiaoxian here in the blink of an eye after he had just sent her away. He said, "You think too much. I don't even know where you are going. How could I look for you?" At this time, the little fellow finished eating a chicken wing and said in a childish voice, "Aunt Xiaoxian, Papa and I are here to travel." "Travel?" Hu Xiaoxian said doubtfully, "This is Shenangjia. It's almost enough to travel outside. What are you doing here?" "Actually, I'm here to pick herbs." Qin Haodong said, "I'm going to refine a special kind of elixir, which lacks a medicinal material. This time, this kind of medicinal material can only be found in Shenangjia, so I'm here to collect herbs and play with Tang Tang." This was the excuse he had prepared long ago. Otherwise, a man bringing a child deep into Shenangjia would definitely arouse suspicion. Hu Xiaoxian looked at Qin Haodong. In addition to holding the little fellow in his arms, he was also carrying a large backpack on his back. She said, "You want to pick herbs in Shenangjia? Do you know how dangerous Shenangjia is? There are many unknown things here. Even so many of us have to be fully prepared. You are simply making trouble." Qin Haodong said, "In fact, my ability to survive in the wild is very strong. These things are enough." His storage ring stored a small warehouse. This backpack was completely used as a cover when he was taking things. Hu Xiaoxian's smile disappeared completely. She said seriously, that won't do. Shenangjia is different from other places. Besides, you have a child with you. How about this, you come with us and we'll have some guarantee of your safety. Hearing that Hu Xiaoxian invited Qin Haodong to join their team, the handsome young man looked more gloomy. Qin Haodong said, you really don't have to. I can take care of her myself. No, absolutely not. This isn't a joke. Hu Xiaoxian said, I'll give you two choices. I'll call someone to send you back to Jiangnan City now, or you can join us. We can go together and take care of each other. Feeling Hu Xiaoxian's genuine care, Qin Haodong couldn't say anything more. He could only nod and said, well, let's go together. The handsome young man couldn't help but step over. But when he came to Qin Haodong, the coldness on his face had disappeared. On the contrary, it was replaced by a warm smile. Xiaoxian, it's rare to meet friends here. Introduce them to us. This is my boyfriend Qin Haodong, and this is my friend Lei Tianrui. Hu Xiaoxian introduced them. Although there was only a word difference between friend and boyfriend, the relationship between them was like heaven and earth. Hearing Hu Xiaoxian officially admitted her relationship with Qin Haodong, Lei Tianrui's eyes flashed with an imperceptible cold light. Qin Haodong didn't deny it. He looked at Lei Tianrui. He was a real master of covert power. Although he was only at the first level of covert power, his covert power was still a level higher than his obvious power. Although Lei Tianrui hid it very well, it couldn't escape Qin Haodong's powerful spirit. Feeling the guy's killing intent, Qin Haodong secretly laughed. He had just arrived in Shenangjia, and he already had a rival in love before he officially entered. Hello, Xiaoxian's friend is my friend. Come to me if you need anything in the future. Lei Tianrui still smiled brightly, as if he had met a friend he hadn't seen for many years. He reached out his right hand to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong reached out and shook hands with him, but he sneered secretly. He didn't expect that his rival in love was a scheming bitch. Lei Tianrui hid his emotions very well, but his men didn't have this ability. The four people behind him looked very cold. At this time, a bearded young man came forward and said, Xiaoxian, how can you do this? As your brother, you should find a boyfriend like Tianrui. Why did you find a second marriage with a child? Aren't you confused? Hu Xiaoxian said with a smile, Brother Chengkuan, you misunderstood. Haodong is not married. This is his adopted daughter. After that, she introduced the four people to Qin Haodong. The bearded man who just spoke is Zhao Chengkuan, and the other three are Xie Zidong, Wang Yuanqing and Dong Sihai. Then Hu Xiaoxian said, I have something to tell you. Haodong is a doctor. He is going to Shenangjia to collect herbs. I think it's too dangerous for him to go alone. I want him to join our team. Is there any objection? No, I have an objection. The first to stand up against it was the bearded Zhao Chengkuan. It seemed that he had a good relationship with Lei Tianrui. Xiaoxian, don't forget that we have a task this time. Taking two ordinary people with us will definitely affect us. What if we can't finish the task? I don't agree either. The one who spoke was Wang Yuanqing in camouflage clothes. He said, that's right. We are going deep into Shenangjia. It's too dangerous. If we can't take care of him, it will bring danger to your friend. That's right. Isn't it nonsense to take a child to Shenangjia to collect herbs? I say go back to where you came from. Don't make trouble for others. The bald man who spoke was called Xie Zidong. This guy was hot-tempered and spoke impolitely. Seeing that the dignified Emperor Greenwood was regarded as a burden by others, Qin Haodong was secretly amused, but he didn't care. If Hu Xiaoxian couldn't persuade her companions, it would be more convenient for him to take the little fellow into the mountain alone. It was no wonder that these people looked down on Qin Haodong. He was originally white and tender, full of bookishness, and he practiced cultivation methods. Ordinary people couldn't see that he was a warrior at the 9th level of overt power. In addition, because of Lei Tianrui, these people unanimously opposed Qin Haodong's joining. Hu Xiaoxian said, Haodong is an excellent Chinese medicine practitioner. Joining our team will not drag us down. On the contrary, it will increase our overall strength. Xiaoxian, I think he is in his early 20s. Such a young man is a Chinese medicine practitioner. How good can his medical skills be? I'm afraid the apprenticeship is not over yet. Xiaoxian, even if you want to defend him, you don't have to make up such a funny reason, do you? Unsurprisingly, others continued to oppose Qin Haodong's joining. Hu Xiaoxian was a little annoyed. She was about to lose her temper when she heard Lei Tianrui say, Okay, don't quarrel. Our team just needs a doctor. It's just right for Dr. Qin to join us. We should welcome him. Boss, but... Zhao Qingquan was about to say something, but Lei Qinrui said coldly, "No buts. Don't forget that I'm the leader of this action group, and Xiaoxian is the deputy leader. We all agree that you must obey us 100%. Yes, boss. Lei Qinrui said so. Although others were confused, they still agreed. Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. He thought that Lei Qinrui would also take the opportunity to oppose his joining. He didn't expect that this guy would agree unexpectedly. But one thing was certain, there must be no good things in his stomach. Seeing that her companions accepted Qin Haodong, Hu Xiaoxian was very happy and said, "You must be hungry. I'll go to the kitchen to cook in person to reward you." "Okay, I haven't tasted Xiaoxian's cooking for a long time." Xie Zaidan, the bald man, swallowed as he said. Obviously, Hu Xiaoxian's cooking was very popular. "Wait a minute, everyone. It'll be ready soon." Hu Xiaoxian turned into the kitchen after saying that. Others sat down to rest one after another. Lei Qinrui and Zhao Qingquan turned around and walked out of the restaurant to smoke at the door. Zhao Qingquan took out a lighter and lit all their cigarettes. He whispered, "Boss, I don't understand. You've pursued Xiaoxian for so long. Why do you still take that toy boy with you?" Lei Qinrui put the cigarette in his mouth and took 2 deep breaths. He said, "What can I do if I don't let him join? Can Xiaoxian change her mind? I know this girl's temper best. It will only aggravate her rebellious mentality." Zhao Qingquan said, "But with this toy boy, it can only increase the chance of them being together. At that time the boss's hope will be even smaller." Lei Qinrui said, "The reason why Xiaoxian likes this toy boy must be his appearance. Now we take him to Shenangjia. After a long time Xiaoxian will see that this toy boy is just a good-for-nothing. He can't compare with me, a genius of martial arts. Only in this way can Xiaoxian see my advantages clearly." "That's true. The toy boy can't compare with you, boss." Zhao Qingquan nodded and said. Lei Qinrui's face showed a grim look. He said gloomily, "And what kind of place is Shenangjia? Dangerous here. Even we have to be extra careful when we enter. If something happens to that toy boy and he loses his life, he can't blame anyone else." Zhao Qingquan suddenly realized that this was the fundamental reason why Lei Qinrui took Qin Haodong with him. Getting rid of Qin Haodong was the best way to make Hu Xiaoxian change her mind. "Boss, you're so smart," Zhao Qingquan said and gave him a thumbs up. "You're just too straightforward. You should use your brain more." Lei Qinrui said proudly, "In the future, you should know how to control your emotions. Don't let Xiaoxian see that we're hostile to that guy. When the time comes, we'll find a suitable opportunity to send him directly to heaven." "That's it." "Got it, boss. I'll pay attention." The two chatted for a while. They put out the cigarette butts in their hands and returned to the restaurant together. Chapter 205. Hu Xiaoxian's cooking skills were really good. The meat she cooked smelled so delicious that even the little fellow who had just eaten almost began to eat again. "Auntie Xiaoxian, the meat you cooked is delicious. Eat more if you like it," Hu Xiaoxian said as she added a piece of cooked venison to the little fellow's plate, and then put another bigger one into Qin Haodong's bowl. Seeing that the 3 of them were talking and laughing like a family, Lei Qinrui's eyes flashed coldly, and he vented all his resentment on the food in front of him. After lunch, the group of people set off. Lei Qinrui brought 2 well-equipped Hummers. There was a lot of space in the car. Although Qin Haodong and the little fellow were there, it was not crowded at all. Originally, Hu Xiaoxian and Lei Qinrui were in the same car, but after Qin Haodong came, she immediately followed them to another Hummer, and the 3 of them sat in the back seat together. Lei Qinrui's face was gloomy. He asked the bald Xie Zaidan to be the driver for Hu Xiaoxian, and then the rest of them got on the other Hummer. The car started and moved toward the primeval forest of Shenangjia. Although the Hummer's off-road performance was excellent, the terrain in the primeval forest was uneven. There were no roads at all in many places, and the ground was covered with rotten branches and leaves. The car drove very slowly, not much faster than a normal person's walking speed. After the car started, the bearded Zhao Qingquan said, "Boss, it seems that we have to find a way to kill that gigolo as soon as possible. This guy looks so annoying." Lei Qinrui looked gloomy and said, "He must die, but we have to pay attention to some methods, and we can't let Xiaoxian see anything." Zhao Qingquan turned to Dong Sihai and said, "Sihai, you are an expert in the jungle, and you have been to Shenangjia many times. Is there any place where we can kill this guy without anyone knowing?" Dong Sihai consulted the electronic map in the car, pointed to a place in front of them and said, "There is a huge man-eating vine here. Last time one of my companions was accidentally eaten by that damn monster. It is expected that we will arrive here at noon tomorrow, and we will camp and eat here. When the time comes, we'll hurry up and occupy all the other positions, leaving only the man-eating vines position for him. I don't need to explain the rest." At this point, Dong Sihai chuckled. The others also understood tacitly. Zhao Qingquan added, "Lao Si, it's a good idea, but Xiaoxian has been with that guy all the time. She's the woman our boss likes. Will she also be hurt by the man-eating vines?" Dong Sihai said, "It should be okay. Boss and Xiaoxian have the best cultivation in our group. They have reached the first level of covert power. No matter how powerful the man-eating vine is, it can't swallow a master of the first level of covert power silently. Furthermore, there are so many of us. When the time comes, everyone should be prepared. As long as Xiaoxian is in danger, we will immediately lend a helping hand." Lei Qinrui nodded with satisfaction and said, "That's a good idea. When the gigolo is fed to the cannibal vine, I can't say anything." Wang Yuanqing said, "It's a pity that the little girl is so cute." Lei Qinrui said with a gloomy look, "Who can she blame? She can only blame her blind father for daring to provoke Xiaoxian." Soon after the two Hummers left, another 5 people came to the restaurant. There were 3 men and 2 women, and their clothes looked very strange. The leader was a bald man who was 1.9 meters tall. He wore an eye patch on his left eye and his face looked very fierce. After entering the room, a woman in red tights swayed her slim waist and came to the table where Qin Haodong and the others had just eaten. She reached out and touched the unclean plates on the table. She turned around and said, "Boss Scorpion, it's still hot. They should have just left. Who knows if these things are eaten by them? Maybe it's someone else." It was a woman in black who spoke. She was dressed in black from head to toe, even her shoes were black. But her curvy body was really hot. The woman in red said coquettishly, "Black Widow, you always doubt my speculation." At this time a tall and thin man said, "Boss, there's someone behind the room." One-Eyed Dragon said, "Let's go and have a look." After the fat boss was thrown out, he looked at the forest in fear. Although it was not night yet, there were already 5 or 6 wild wolves wandering around him. It seemed that as soon as the sky turned dark, they would pounce on him and tear up the food they liked. "Help! Someone help me." Before Hu Xiaoxian and the others left, the fat boss and his men were in great pain, but no one dared to call for help, for fear that they would provoke the group of people and directly kill them. At this time the 2 Hummers had already driven away. They couldn't care less and began to shout desperately. They were now all disabled people with broken limbs. They couldn't even crawl. If they didn't meet anyone before dark, they would really be buried in the stomach of the wolves. The fat boss was shouting hard. Suddenly, a pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of him. He looked up and saw One-Eyed Dragon and the others. "Help, help, big brother, I beg you, hurry up and save me." The fat boss seemed to have seen his savior and kept begging. One-Eyed Dragon's remaining eye glanced around coldly and asked, "What's the matter with you?" "Big brother, we used to run a shop here, but we suddenly encountered a group of robbers. They not only robbed us but also broke our arms and legs. Please save us." The fat boss put on a pitiful look. One-Eyed Dragon asked again, "What do those people look like? You have to tell me in detail." The fat boss said, "At first, there was a little boy with a little girl in his arms. Then there were 5 men and a woman, 6 people in total. These people were extremely fierce. After entering the room they beat all of us and made us look like this." Black Widow took out a photo and sent it to the fat boss. She said, "Do you know this woman?" It was Hu Xiaoxian in the photo. The fat boss quickly said, "Of course I know her. This is the woman who broke my legs." The woman in red said, "How is it?" Black Widow, "I guessed right. They just passed by." Black Widow said, "What's the matter with the little boy with the child?" The woman in red smiled and said, "Just find our target. Why do you care so much? He's just a little boy. If I like him I'll suck him dry. If I don't like him I'll kill him directly." One-Eyed Dragon said, "It seems that they are in front of us. Let's go quickly." After that, he turned around and was about to leave with his men. The fat boss panicked and hurriedly cried, "Big brother, I've told you everything you asked. Hurry up and help us. I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it." One-Eyed Dragon looked back at the fat man and said coldly, "Send them on their way. Don't let these people expose the whereabouts of our devilish 5. The fat boss was suddenly dumbfounded. He had been doing evil all his life. He didn't expect that today he would really meet evil people who wanted to kill them all. He hurriedly begged, "Big brother, please let me go. No matter who asks, I won't say I've seen you." The woman in red swayed her slender waist and came to him. She said in a sweet voice, Damn fatty, if you were a little more handsome, I might let you enjoy it before you die. Unfortunately, you are too ugly. Just go on your way. After that, a cold light flashed in her hand and directly cut the fat boss's neck. At the same time, the 7 or 8 men of the fat boss also screamed and were soon killed. After doing these things, the 5 people hurried up along the ruts left by the 2 Hummers. Lei Qianrui and his men didn't know that they were being followed. They drove slowly forward. The road in the virgin forest was getting more and more difficult. The paint outside the Hummer had been scratched. Fortunately, the armor was thick and did not suffer too much damage. This was not bad. Sometimes there was even no road. It was difficult to pass through the dense thorns. Several people had to get out of the car and cut away with knives. Every time this happened, Qin Haodong began to collect medicinal materials with the little fellow. Zhao Qingquan and the others were exhausted, but he was leisurely, which made them angry. After walking and stopping for half a day, they had covered about 60 to 70 kilometers of road. Near evening they came across an open field. Dong Sihai said, "Boss, it's too dangerous to walk in the forest at night. Let's camp here." Lei Qianrui said, "You are a jungle expert. We'll listen to you." Zhao Qingquan parked the Hummer and Xie Zidong also stopped. They began to set up camp here for the night. Dong Sihai had a lot of experience living in the jungle. He felt at home here. He walked out with his gun and soon came back with 3 pheasants and 2 rabbits. After washing the pheasants and rabbits, they set up a campfire and began to roast. It was very dangerous to make a fire in the big forest. Fortunately, these people had rich experience in survival in the wild, so they were not afraid of a fire. Half an hour later, the pheasants and rabbits were almost roasted, and a strong aroma began to spread in the woods. Lei Qianrui picked up a golden pheasant and stepped to Hu Shaoxian. He said flatteringly, "Shaoxian, you've been tired all day. Are you hungry?" He intended to share the pheasant with Hu Shaoxian. Before he finished, Hu Shaoxian took the pheasant from his hand and said, "Thank you." Before Lei Qianrui came to his senses, Hu Shaoxian came to Qin Haodong with the pheasant and said, "Haodong, you've been tired all day. Are you hungry? This pheasant is good. Eat it while it's hot." Then Qin Haodong and the other 2 began to eat the roasted pheasant together like a family. No matter how scheming Lei Qianrui was, his face was gloomy at this time. If eyes could kill, Qin Haodong would have been dismembered. At this time, Zhao Qingquan came over with a roasted hare and pulled Lei Qianrui aside. He whispered, "Boss, he's going to die. Why do you care so much about him? Let him live until tomorrow at most." Hearing this, Lei Qianrui was in a better mood. He tore off a hare's thigh and gnawed at it fiercely. But this was just the beginning. Then something more depressing happened. Although the Hummer was fully equipped, it only carried a single tent for 6 people. When it was time to sleep, there would be trouble. Qin Haodong and the little fellow had no place to sleep. In fact, there was a big tent in Qin Haodong's storage ring, which he had prepared before. But in front of so many people, he naturally could not reveal the secret of the storage ring. Chapter 206. Hu Shaoxian said, "How can we do that? We've been tired all day. If we don't sleep well, we won't have the strength tomorrow." Lei Qianrui said, "What should we do? Our equipment is brought according to the number of people, and we don't have extra tents. Should we give up our tents to him? It will affect our condition." Hu Shaoxian said, "Don't bother. We're not fat. 3 of us can squeeze into a tent." How can we do that?" Lei Qianrui was really shocked by Hu Shaoxian's words. "Of course. It's none of your business." Hu Shaoxian turned to Qin Haodong and said, "Did you hear that? Tang, the 3 of us will sleep in one tent." Although he had the experience of hugging Hu Shaoxian to sleep, Qin Haodong still felt a little embarrassed. He said, "Forget it. You sleep in the tent with Tang. I'll sleep in the car for one night." "How can we do that? It's so hard in the car. It's not comfortable at all and it's easy to catch a cold." Hu Shaoxian complained, "It's your fault. You took the child to the mountain to pick herbs and you didn't prepare at all. What if Tang catches a cold?" Qin Haodong thought it had nothing to do with him. "I've prepared everything but I can't take it out because of you." He said, "Forget it. The tent is so small. How can 3 people sleep in it? Why are you so fussy? Isn't it fine if the tent is small? Is there anything to be embarrassed about? It's not the first time we've slept together." Hu Shaoxian said it casually, but it was like thunder in Lei Qianrui's ears. He had always regarded Hu Shaoxian as his woman, his exclusive property, and never allowed others to touch her. He didn't expect that she had slept with Qin Haodong, which made him so angry that his eyes suddenly burst into flames. Dong Sihai saw that he was on the verge of exploding. He quickly pulled him aside and whispered, "Boss, don't be impulsive. If you really fall out with Xiaoxian, it'll be troublesome. We still have an important task this time. And there can't be anything between the gigolo boy and the child. At most, we'll wait for another night. At this time tomorrow the boy will be dead." Lei Qinrui took a deep breath and managed to suppress his anger. He turned around and went into his tent. Out of sight, out of mind. Since he couldn't stop it, he could only hide his head like a pheasant. On Hu Xiaoxian's side, the little fellow held Qin Haodong's neck and said, "Papa, I want to sleep with you. Then shall we sleep in the car together?" With the little fellow's holy body, Qin Haodong was not worried about her catching a cold. The little fellow shook her head and said, "No, I miss my mom. I want to sleep with Aunt Xiaoxian." Qin Haodong felt helpless. It was the first time for Hu Xiaoxian to leave Lin Momo. It was normal for her to miss her mother at night. He had no choice but to borrow Hu Xiaoxian for a while. After the discussion, the three of them entered Hu Xiaoxian's single tent together. The tent was spacious for one person, but it was a bit crowded for three people. In the end, Qin Haodong and Hu Xiaoxian turned sideways and sandwiched the little fellow in the middle, so that the three of them were much more comfortable. The little fellow turned her head and looked at Qin Haodong, then looked at Hu Xiaoxian and said, "Aunt Xiaoxian, you look like my mom." Looking at her lovely appearance, Qin Haodong and Hu Xiaoxian kissed her apple-like face at the same time. Although they kissed both sides of the little fellow's cheeks, the atmosphere was still a bit ambiguous in this narrow space. The little fellow giggled and said, "Papa, Aunt Xiaoxian, you kissed me together. Is it equivalent to you kissing each other?" The little fellow's words reminded Hu Xiaoxian of the night when they hugged each other to sleep. Her face turned red. "Aunt Xiaoxian, have you kissed my papa?" This question made Hu Xiaoxian a little embarrassed. She was not used to lying to children if she said no, but she was a little embarrassed if she said yes. The little fellow did not dwell on this question. She turned her head and said to Qin Haodong, "Papa, can you kiss Aunt Xiaoxian?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Tang Tang, adults are different from children. You can't kiss casually." The little fellow said, "I know that adults can only kiss people they like, but I can see that Aunt Xiaoxian likes you." Qin Haodong was speechless for a moment. This little girl was so clever that she could see everything. "You're not as good as a child." Hu Xiaoxian looked at Qin Haodong with her charming eyes. Suddenly she leaned forward and kissed Qin Haodong's lips gently. Although it was just a light peck and they parted as soon as they touched, such a kiss still made both of them feel as if they had been electrocuted. The tent fell into silence for a moment. The next morning after breakfast, they set off again and went to the depths of Shenangjia. Qin Haodong secretly looked at the map that Dilong had drawn for him. It happened to be the same direction as Hu Xiaoxian and the others. This made him secretly feel strange. Could it be that these people's destination was the same as his, to go to the underground palace? When it was close to noon they came to an open space again. Beside the open space was a dense forest. This forest was different from the forest they had experienced. In other places there were towering trees that covered the whole sky, but the trees here were thin and short, with many slender vines hanging on them. Dong Sihai said, "Boss, this is the place I mentioned. Do you see those vines? They are the famous man-eating vines. Although they are motionless now and no different from ordinary vines, once someone enters their attack range, they will immediately become extremely fierce." Zhao Qingkuan asked, "Fourth brother, is this thing as powerful as you said?" "It's more than powerful. It's amazing. You'll see it later." Even a master of covert power can only avoid it temporarily. Zhao Qingkuan said excitedly, "So, that toy boy is dead." Dong Sihai said confidently, "Of course. If he can come out alive from the mouth of the man-eating vines, I'll write my surname backwards." He had been here once 3 years ago and saw the power of the man-eating vines with his own eyes. Lei Tianrui's face showed a touch of ferocity and he said, "Well, let's camp here and act according to the original plan." Their car was in the front, and Qin Haodong's car was following. Seeing the car stop, the car behind naturally stopped. It was also lunchtime. After getting off the car, everyone began to pack up and prepare for lunch here. Dong Sihai, Zhao Qingkuan and others, according to the prior discussion, occupied all the positions far away from the man-eating vines, leaving the side close to the vines for Qin Haodong. "Dr. Qin, it's time to eat." Dong Sihai greeted him enthusiastically. Qin Haodong glanced at the vines hanging on the tree, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. As the Emperor Greenwood, how could he not know the man-eating vines? Looking at the position where Lei Tianrui and others were sitting, he immediately understood their intention. It was obvious that these people wanted to kill him with the man-eating vines. However, Lei Tianrui and Dong Sihai never dreamed that Qin Haodong was the king of wood, and how dare the man-eating vines attack him. As long as he wanted, he could drain the essence of wood of the man-eating vines at any time. But Qin Haodong didn't show anything, and directly sat in the reserved position with the little fellow in his arms. Lei Tianrui and Dong Sihai had a cruel smile on their faces, waiting for the man-eating vines to catch Qin Haodong and eat him. But after waiting for a long time, the vines didn't move at all. Qin Haodong and his daughter grabbed the food in front of them and began to eat. Until the end of lunch, the vines didn't move at all. After lunch, Lei Tianrui pulled Dong Sihai aside and asked, "What's the matter? Did you remember the wrong position?" Dong Sihai said inexplicably, "It's impossible. I remember it very clearly. It's this position, and those vines are the man-eating vines." "Then what do you think is going on now? Why is he there? Nothing happened." Lei Tianrui said very discontentedly, "It's so strange. Are those vines dead?" Dong Sihai said unwillingly, "I'll go and have a look." Then he pretended to take a casual walk and slowly approached the direction of the man-eating vines. Even so, he was more careful, according to the memory of that year, to the edge of the safe zone. But he forgot that the man-eating vines themselves were plants and plants could grow. The safe zone was the safe zone in the past and now it was not safe. Just as he was standing there observing before he could figure out what was going on, a soft sound suddenly came from the thicket. A long vine seemed to have come to life and fiercely shot towards Dong Sihai's face. Dong Sihai was shocked, but he was also a warrior in the 9th level of overt power. Although he was shocked, he didn't panic and suddenly leaned to the side to avoid the vine. With a piu sound, the tree vine shot into an ancient tree behind him. This originally incomparably sturdy hemlock tree was actually pierced through by this long vine in an instant. It could be seen just how powerful the vine was. But it didn't end there. When he was about to retreat, there was a small sound, and more than a dozen vines entangled him again. This time Dong Sihai was almost scared. He could barely cope with one vine, but more than a dozen came down at once, which was completely beyond his ability to cope with. At the same time, he didn't understand why Qin Haodong was here just now, but he was attacked by the man-eating vines as soon as he came over. But at this time, there was no time for him to think too much. He quickly pulled out the dagger from his waist and turned it into a knife light to cut these vines. Although most of the tree vines had been cut in half, there were still 2 that wrapped around his legs. These tree vines were as thick and powerful as a human's arms. In an instant, Dong Sihai was pulled to the ground and dragged forward. He was completely panicked. He had seen the scene of his companion being swallowed by the man-eating vines. He quickly waved the dagger in his hand to cut the vines at his feet, but the man-eating vines didn't give him the chance at all. Another 7 or 8 vines entangled him. "Help!" Dong Sihai waved the dagger to cut the vines in front of him while asking for help from his companions. At this time, Lei Tianrui, Zhao Chengkuan and others also came to their senses. They all grabbed their weapons and rushed to help Dong Sihai. Lei Tianrui was indeed a warrior in the covert power level. The long sword in his hand turned into a stream of light, and instantly cut off the 2 vines entangled Dong Sihai's feet. Zhao Chengkuan waved a big machete in his right hand, and pulled Dong Sihai up with his left hand. But the power of the man-eating vines was far beyond their imagination. When they were about to retreat, the vines in the whole forest seemed to come to life in an instant, and attacked them overwhelmingly. Chapter 207. As a master of covert power, Lei Tianrui didn't take the cannibal vine seriously from beginning to end. In his opinion, no matter how powerful it was, it couldn't be more powerful than him. So he didn't rush to leave after saving Dong Sihai. He stood there with a long sword in his hand. He had a desire to show his powerful fighting ability in front of Hu Shaoxian. But soon, facing the overwhelming vines, he regretted it. These things were much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Dozens of vines attacked Lei Tianrui from different angles in all directions. Some wrapped around his head, some rolled to his limbs, and some even directly swept the long sword in his hand. These vines acted according to their division of labor, advancing and retreating as if they were commanded by someone. "Retreat!" Lei Tianrui let out a loud shout, then waved the long sword in his hand to resist the attack of the cannibal vines. After the sword light rolled up, the vines wrapped around him were chopped into a lot of sawdust and fell to the ground. However, these cannibal vines seemed to be endless. When a vine was cut off, 2 vines immediately came to replace it, and the attack became more and more fierce. Although he withstood the attack with his profound cultivation, he could barely fight to a draw. It was impossible for him to retreat for the time being. Dong Sihai and Zhao Qingquan didn't have the cultivation of Lei Tianrui. They had just reached the 9th level of overt power. In the face of the overwhelming vines, they were a little flustered. In the end, they stood back to back, each defending a direction. Then they barely withstood the attack, but they were unable to get out of the encirclement of the cannibal vines. At this time, Xie Zidong and Wang Yuanqing also took action outside. They didn't rush into the attack range of the cannibal vines. Instead, each of them held an AK and launched a crazy fire at the cannibal vines, trying to save the 3 companions inside. Although the pouring bullets broke some vines of the cannibal vines, there were so many vines that they covered the sky and the earth. These bullets were tantamount to putting out a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. They couldn't bring much help to the 3 people trapped inside. Seeing that her companions were in danger, Hu Shaoxian instinctively looked at Qin Haodong and asked in shock, "Haodong, what kind of monster is this?" "This plant is called the man-eating vine. Be it humans or animals, as long as they enter its attack range, they will be eaten by it." "Really? This is the first time I've heard of a plant that can eat people." Hu Shaoxian looked incredulous. "Of course it's real." Qin Haodong pointed to a tree more than 10 meters away, which was as thick as 3 people holding hands. "Look, that's its trunk." Hu Shaoxian looked in the direction of the finger. Sure enough, those overwhelming vines finally converged on the big tree, and the trunk was like a calm general, commanding his subordinates to attack Lei Tianrui and the other 2. Looking down, there were piles of bones at the bottom of the tree trunk. Some of these bones belonged to wild beasts, while others belonged to humans. Now Hu Shaoxian believed him. She asked nervously, "Haodong, what should we do?" "Easy," Qin Haodong said. He took out 2 cans of beer, a can of Coke, and a bag of braised chicken wings from his backpack. He opened a can of beer and handed it to Hu Shaoxian. Then he opened a can of Coke and handed it to the little fellow next to him. Finally, he opened a bottle of beer himself. He took a sip and said, "It's great to drink and watch the show." He was not a Virgin Mary. These people had carefully set a trap for him. Now they were suffering. Did he have to go and save them? The little fellow had always been very cooperative with her father's proposal. She cried cheerfully, "Great, great. There are chicken wings to eat and Coke to drink." After saying that, she grabbed a chicken wing and ate it in big bites. From time to time she would take a sip of cola. Hu Shaoxian was completely stunned. She had never thought that Qin Haodong's easy would be this way in this case. At this time, the situation on Lei Tianrui's side changed again. The cannibal vines seemed to be intelligent. They found that this form of attack could not harm the 3 people. They immediately changed the way of fighting. Every time they twisted 3 or 4 vines together and then launched attacks on several people. Although this method seemed very simple, it immediately changed the situation on the field. In the past, Lei Tianrui could cut the vines every time he waved his sword. But now he couldn't. Cutting 1 or 2 vines could not stop the attack of the cannibal vines. The consequence of not being able to cut off the vines when he was surrounded was very serious. Soon Lei Tianrui was broken through the encirclement by the ropes formed by the vines. They entangled his arms first, then his legs, and finally the sword in his hand was tightly entangled. "Help me! Help me!" At this point, Lei Tianrui was completely panicked. He shouted to his companions for help, while desperately running his internal force to break the vines on his body. But these vines were so tough that even the sword couldn't cut them, let alone his internal force. In the blink of an eye, he failed to break free. On the contrary, even his neck and head were entangled by the vines. The whole person looked like a green dumpling. Even he, a great master of the 1st level of covert power, was caught by the cannibal vines, not to mention Dong Sihai and Zhao Qingquan. The long knives and daggers in their hands were taken away by the cannibal vines. Then they were tied up like dumplings and lifted into the air. Seeing their companions in danger, Wang Yuanqing and Xie Zidong threw away the AK in their hands, picked up 2 machetes and rushed in. In fact, this was extremely stupid. They were tied up in less than 2 minutes after entering the attack range of the cannibal vines. The 5 people were hung in the air by the vines and slowly approached the main trunk of the cannibal vines. At this time, there was a big hole with a diameter of 1 meter on the thick trunk. It looked like a mouth to eat people. The most frightening thing was that there was white juice flowing out, which looked like saliva. Seeing the piles of white bones under the tree hole, Lei Tianrui and others were panicked and struggled desperately. But under the entanglement of the vines, their struggle had no effect at all. They could only watch the horrible tree hole getting closer and closer. Hu Shaoxian didn't make a move just now, but at this moment she could no longer sit still. As a member of the Xianyuan Pavilion, she couldn't just watch her companions become the food of the cannibal vines. You and Tang Tang stay here. Don't get close to that weird thing. After saying that, Hu Shaoxian pulled out her purple flash sword and rushed to the cannibal vines with a loud shout. Qin Haodong took another sip of beer, grabbed a chicken wing and said, "It's really stupid. It's useless to go there like this. It can only change the taste of the cannibal vines." The little fellow gnawed on the chicken wing and said, "Papa, can't Auntie Shaoxian beat that weird thing?" Qin Haodong said, "She can barely get in and out quickly, but it's impossible for her to save people. She can only get herself killed." Hu Shaoxian's cultivation had reached the second level of covert power, and the purple flash sword in her hand was also a precious sword. It was smooth when she just got in. Countless vines were cut off by her, and soon she got close to Lei Tianrui. However, the cannibal vines quickly adjusted their strategy. First, they twisted the vines together 3 times. Seeing that they still couldn't stop Hu Shaoxian's attack, they changed to a thick rope of 6 or 7 vines. No matter how sharp the purple flash sword was, it couldn't cut off such thick vines at once. In the battle with the cannibal vines, if they couldn't cut off its vines, then there was only one result: being entangled by it. In this way, all 6 people in Lei Tianrui's group were caught by the cannibal vines and hung in the air. They were about to become food. The little fellow had a good relationship with Hu Shaoxian. Seeing that she was caught, she put down the chicken wing in her hand and cried, "Papa, do you want me to set fire to save Auntie Shaoxian?" Qin Haodong said quickly, "No, you can't. This is a big forest. You can't set fire, or the whole Shenangjia will be destroyed. Besides, setting fire will not only not save your Auntie Shaoxian, but also roast them together." What the little fellow released was innate fire. If it was burned by her, the whole Shenangjia would become a bare mountain in the future. The little fellow cried, "Papa, find a way to save Auntie Shaoxian." "Don't worry. Auntie Shaoxian will be fine as long as Papa is here." Qin Haodong could sit down and drink and watch the show when others were caught, but he couldn't ignore Hu Shaoxian. He stood up, still holding the can of beer in his hand, and walked slowly towards the cannibal vines. Although Hu Shaoxian was tied up and hung up, she could still clearly see Qin Haodong walking over leisurely. This guy was drinking beer while walking. She really didn't know what he was thinking. Didn't he see how fierce the cannibal vines were? She screamed at the top of her voice, "Haodong, go back and leave with Tang Tang. It's too dangerous. Don't come here." In her opinion, although Qin Haodong had some skills, he was still much worse than her. Even she was caught by the abominable cannibal vines. Qin Haodong could only serve as food if he came in. Qin Haodong glanced at Hu Shaoxian, who looked anxious, and his heart was slightly warm. This woman was really sincere to him. At this time she was still thinking about his safety. He said with a smile as he walked, "Don't be afraid. I'm a friend of it. It won't eat you for my sake." "You bastard, you're still joking at this time. Stop, or it's really over." Hu Shaoxian was shouting at the top of her voice, but she saw that Qin Haodong had stepped into the attack range of the cannibal vines. She suddenly closed her eyes. She didn't want to see her loved one also be caught by the cannibal vines. But after a while she didn't hear the attack of the cannibal vines. On the contrary, a warm palm was patting her cheek, and a voice said jokingly, "Hey, what are you doing? You closed your eyes. This is not the time to sleep. Do you think this is a hammock?" Hu Shaoxian opened her eyes and saw Qin Haodong's handsome face in front of her. The vines of the cannibal vines were hanging aside and did not attack Qin Haodong. She asked with a surprised face, What the hell is going on? Why don't these things attack you?" Not only her but the other 5 people were also very confused. Especially Dong Sihai. Today's plan was completely planned by him. He originally wanted to feed Qin Haodong to the cannibal vines, but he didn't expect that the cannibal vines didn't respond to Qin Haodong. Was this guy not to its taste? Qin Haodong said with a smile, "I told you I'm good friends with it." Then he patted the vines on Hu Shaoxian's body and said, "Let her go. This is my friend." Chapter 208. Hu Shaoxian regained her freedom. She stood up and looked at the cannibal vines scattered on the ground. She couldn't believe it. She asked, "How did you do it?" "I told you they were my friends." Qin Haodong took Hu Shaoxian's hand and said, "Let's go back and continue drinking." Seeing that Qin Haodong was going to leave without any intention to save them, the people who were still entangled by the cannibal vines panicked, especially Lei Tianrui, who was the closest to the tree hole. His mouth was tied by the vines and he couldn't make a sound. He could only make a muffled sound. Hu Shaoxian came to herself and took Qin Haodong's hand and said, "Haodong, hurry up and save them. I don't know these people well. Why should I save them?" Qin Haodong said with a playful face, "And the cannibal vines are hungry. I can't let my friends starve all the time. They should eat something." "You're still joking at a time like this," Hu Shaoxian said anxiously. "Although they are not very friendly to you, you can't let them be eaten by the cannibal vines. It's a human life anyway." Qin Haodong was not moved and said, "They asked for it. It's no one else's fault." Hu Shaoxian didn't know that Dong Sihai and others plotted to frame Qin Haodong. Seeing that Lei Tianrui was about to be thrown into the tree hole of the cannibal vines, she pulled out the purple lightning sword again and cried, "If you don't save them, I will. You are no match for them at all. Then I have to save them. After all, they're my companions. We should die together." Hu Shaoxian was about to take action. Qin Haodong stopped her and said helplessly, "I'm afraid of you. I'll save them once for your sake." After that, he patted a nearby man-eating vine and said, "Okay, you can go hungry today. Put them all down for me." This time the cannibal vine seemed to be a little reluctant. Although it put them down, they were all thrown out. Lei Tianrui and others fell to the ground like rolling gourds. Seeing that her companions were saved, Hu Shaoxian was finally relieved and said to Qin Haodong, "Thank you." After that, she took Qin Haodong's hand and walked to the little fellow who was still eating chicken wings. At this time, Lei Tianrui and the others got up from the ground. Dong Sihai glared at Qin Haodong and said, "Boy, you have the ability to subdue the cannibal vine. Why did you save us now?" Zhao Qingquan also shouted, "Yes, you should have saved us long ago. Why did you take action now? They really are ingrates. They don't know how to be grateful at all." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "It's good enough that I can save you, and it's all for Xiaoxian's sake. Otherwise, whether you live or die has nothing to do with me." Lei Tianrui said, "Qin Haodong, don't forget that we saved you in that black shop. If we hadn't helped you in time, you would have been made into a stuffed bun by the fat boss. Yeah, you're the one who's ungrateful." A few others followed suit and shouted. Qin Haodong said lightly, "Do you think I care about those scumbags who run a black shop? If you hadn't come, they would have died even more miserably. Besides, it was Xiaoxian who really saved me. What does it have to do with you?" Xie Zidong said angrily, "Anyway, we're companions. You should have helped us when you saw us in danger." "Companions?" Qin Haodong smiled disdainfully and said to Lei Tianrui and the others, "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? When we were camping at noon, you deliberately left the direction of the cannibal vine to me. The purpose is to let the cannibal vine eat me. Is this what you call companions?" They didn't expect that Qin Haodong had already seen through their thoughts. Lei Tianrui, Dong Sihai and the others couldn't help but feel embarrassed and speechless for a while. But it also meant that they acquiesced to Qin Haodong's statement. "Is it true?" Hu Shaoxian suddenly became annoyed. She just understood why Qin Haodong was unwilling to save them just now. It turned out that they asked for it. Zhao Qingquan said to Qin Haodong angrily, "So what? Shaoxian is the woman our boss likes. You're just an ordinary toy boy. How can a little doctor deserve Xiaoxian?" Hu Shaoxian said angrily, "I like whoever I want. What does it have to do with you?" Lei Tianrui said, "Xiaoxian, don't be fooled. He's just a toy boy who looks good but is useless." Hu Shaoxian scolded, "Shameless. You really have no conscience. Have you forgotten who just saved you?" Dong Sihai said, "So what? If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have camped here at all, and there would be no danger." Zhao Qingquan said, "Xiaoxian, I'll show you what a real man is now. I'll show you that this toy boy has no ability at all." After that, he picked up a dagger and stepped toward Qin Haodong. "How dare you?" Hu Shaoxian shouted angrily. She pulled out the purple flash sword and stood in front of Qin Haodong to protect him. Qin Haodong didn't care at all. He pulled Hu Shaoxian to his side and said, "Don't worry. He's just a small shrimp. He can't make any trouble at all." Zhao Qingquan was annoyed. After all, he was a warrior at the 9th level of overt power. He didn't take Qin Haodong seriously at all. However, he just took a few steps and before he came to Qin Haodong, he suddenly felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Although his mind was still clear, his body was getting more and more numb and he slowly lost consciousness. "Qingquan, what's wrong with you?" Dong Sihai had the best relationship with Zhao Qingquan. He shouted and was about to help Zhao Qingquan up, but he also fell to the ground with a thud. Then Lei Tianrui, Wang Yuanqing and Xie Zidong also fell to the ground. "No, I'm poisoned." Lei Tianrui shouted and quickly mobilized the genuine qi in his dantian, trying to expel the poison from his body. But he was horrified to find that he had lost contact with the genuine qi in his dantian, and his body didn't respond at all. Wu Shaoxian was shocked. She turned to look at Qin Haodong and asked, "What's going on?" As soon as she finished speaking, she also felt dizzy and numb. She fell back. Fortunately, Qin Haodong was beside her and held her. "Haodong, what's wrong with me?" Wu Shaoxian asked in shock. She also felt that she was poisoned, but she didn't believe that it was Qin Haodong who did it. Qin Haodong slowly put Wu Shaoxian on the ground and said, "You're all poisoned, but I didn't do it." Zhao Qingquan cried, "Nonsense, so many people here were poisoned, only you were not poisoned. How can you say that you didn't do it?" Wu Shaoxian said, "Are you brainless? Is it necessary for Haodong to poison you? So he just didn't save you. Why did he make it so troublesome?" This, Zhao Qingquan was stunned and then cried, "Then why is he the only one who is fine?" Qin Haodong didn't bother to pay attention to Zhao Qingquan. He picked up a section of the cannibal vine that had just been cut off. He pointed to the small thorns on it and said to Wu Shaoxian, "The poison in your body is from the cannibal vine. When the cannibal vine entangles its prey, it pierces the small thorns on the vines into the prey's body to release a kind of poison. This poison is actually the digestive fluid secreted by the cannibal vine. Its purpose is to digest the prey easily, but it is highly toxic to people. This kind of poison makes people feel dizzy at first and lose the ability to move their limbs. It won't take long for the body to begin to rot and die." At this time, the little fellow said, "Papa, find a way to save Auntie Shaoxian." Wu Shaoxian also said nervously, "Haodong, do you have any idea? If it was a simple death, it would not make her so afraid. But thinking that her body would rot first and then die, she could not accept it in any case." Qin Haodong said, "You need to tie the knot to solve the problem. The antidote to the poison of the man-eating vine is its fruit. It's just that it's too difficult for ordinary people to get the fruit of the man-eating vine, but it's easy for me." After that, he snapped his fingers in the direction of the cannibal vine. Immediately, a vine wrapped a small green fruit and sent it to Qin Haodong's palm. "Eat it and you'll be back to normal soon," Qin Haodong said and stuffed the small green fruit into Wu Shaoxian's ruddy mouth. Wu Shaoxian did not hesitate and directly swallowed the fruit. It was strange that shortly after eating the fruit, her body slowly recovered. After 2 or 3 minutes, she stood up from the ground and the genuine qi in her body also resumed flowing. Everything was exactly the same as before. "Shaoxian, find a way to save us." It was Zhao Qingquan who spoke. His poison was the first to take effect. At this time, he seemed to feel that his body was about to begin to rot. Wu Shaoxian was also extremely dissatisfied with these people. But anyway, they were her companions. Moreover, this time they came to Shenangjia on behalf of the Shenyuan Pavilion, and there was still a task to be completed. "Haodong, can you also save them?" The little fellow said, "No, they are so bad. They were fierce to Papa just now." Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, "Shaoxian, you see, even Tang Tang can see that they are not good people. I just heard that you saved them once, but so what? They still bite the hand that feeds them. This time I won't help them again. Let them fend for themselves." After he said this, Lei Tianrui and others couldn't help but feel sad. If they couldn't get help in this big forest, there was only a way out for them. But they couldn't blame others for it. They had just offended Qin Haodong. Wu Shaoxian glared at them, sighed and said, "Haodong, I know they are wrong, but they are still lives after all. I can't just watch them die like this. Besides, I have a task this time and I need their help. Can you save them again for my sake?" "No." Qin Haodong said neatly, "Shaoxian, you have heard the story of Mr. Donghua and the wolf. I don't want to make this mistake again." What Qin Haodong said was reasonable. Lei Tianrui and others had really gone too far, which made Wu Shaoxian speechless. But she couldn't just watch her companions die like this. She turned to them and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and apologize." If her companions apologized to Qin Haodong, it would be easier for them to plead later. Lei Tianrui was also a young master from a sect and had a certain status in the Shenyuan Pavilion. His grandfather was one of the 9 elders of the Shenyuan Pavilion. It was impossible for him to bow his head and apologize to a little doctor in normal times. But now the situation was different. If he didn't bow his head, he was afraid that there was only a way out for him. Zhao Qingquan and others looked at Lei Tianrui together with a begging look in their eyes. Obviously, they were also afraid of death. Chapter 209. Dong Sihai and Zhao Qingquan had been holding back for a long time. They wanted to beg for mercy for a long time, but they couldn't lower their heads before Lei Tianrui spoke. Now that Lei Tianrui had apologized, they hurriedly cried, "Mr. Qin, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. We were wrong just now. Please save us again." Wu Shaoxian said, "Haodong, they have apologized. Anyway, we are all Wuxia compatriots. It's a human life. You're also a doctor. You can't just watch them being poisoned to death." Qin Haodong glanced at those people, sighed and said, "Well, since you said so, I'll save them again for the sake of being a doctor. Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much." Lei Tianrui and others were so nervous just now that they were afraid that Qin Haodong wouldn't help them. Now that he finally agreed, they hurriedly thanked him. Wu Shaoxian knew that Qin Haodong's help had a lot to do with her, so she said, "Haodong, I also thank you on behalf of them." "Don't thank me yet." Qin Haodong picked up the beer in front of him and took another sip. He said slowly, "Since I said that I am a doctor, I naturally have to charge for treating people, so I can't treat you for free." Wu Shaoxian said, "It's reasonable to charge. How much do you think each person should be charged?" Qin Haodong said, 1 million per person, not a penny less. 1 million? Isn't that a little too much? Lei Tianrui and others cried out in surprise. In their opinion, Qin Haodong would ask them for 10,000 or so. They didn't expect that he would ask for 1 million per person. Wu Shaoxian said, "Haodong, isn't it a little expensive?" "Expensive? Don't forget that it's a life-saving service. Isn't each of their lives worth 1 million? Qin Haodong said, "And it's for the sake of their Wuxia compatriots. You can check on the internet. How much did I pay for the elixir I sold to old Maldini last time? How much was the consultation fee?" Wu Shaoxian was speechless for a moment. When she first arrived in Jiangnan City, she had investigated Qin Haodong's identity. Naturally, she also knew that the consultation fee for old Maldini was 100 million. Later he sold 3 elixirs for 10 million each. In this case, the price of 1 million for Lei Tianrui was not too high. She turned her head to look at Lei Tianrui and the others. None of them said a word. Although they were all rich children of aristocratic families, 1 million was not a small number. The most important thing was that they felt it was unfair to buy a fruit of the cannibal vine with this amount of money. Qin Haodong saw that these people were willing to sacrifice their lives but not their wealth, so he sneered and said, "As a doctor, I want to remind you that your body will ulcerate in 10 minutes at most. At that time, it will be useless to eat the fruits of the man-eating vines. There will be no cure. Therefore this 1 million yuan is not for the fruits of the man-eating vines, but for your own lives. Whether it's worth it or not, you can decide for yourself." Hearing that, Lei Tianrui's heart skipped a beat. Although Qin Haodong might be bluffing them, they couldn't be careless when it came to their lives. What if it was true? Thinking of this, he said, "I agree to pay 1 million yuan for the consultation, but you have to cure me first." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You people are not trustworthy, so you have to pay the bill first?" You. Lei Tianrui wanted to get angry, but at this time his life was at stake, so he had no capital to be angry. Finally, he had to let Wu Shaoxian take out his mobile phone to transfer 1 million yuan to Qin Haodong's account. After receiving the money, Qin Haodong looked at Dong Qingkuan and the others and said with a smile, "Who else wants to be treated? Pay up now. I'm telling you, I don't know how many fruits there are in the man-eating vines. If there are only 2 or 3, those who pay later will die." Zhao Qingkuan and the others were planning to force Qin Haodong to treat them after Lei Tianrui got rid of the toxins in his body, so that they could save a lot of money. But after hearing Qin Haodong's words, they didn't dare to hesitate anymore. They rushed to shout, "I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to pay 1 million yuan." Then Wu Shaoxian took out their mobile phones and paid the money to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong looked at the number on the mobile phone and nodded with satisfaction. Then he turned to the man-eating vines and 5 bright green fruits were sent to him. Qin Haodong handed the fruits to Wu Shaoxian and asked her to give them to Lei Tianrui and the others. It didn't take long for these people to get rid of the toxins and regain their ability to move. After feeling their bodies recovered, these people were ecstatic at first, and then they couldn't help but feel sad when they thought of the 1 million yuan taken by Qin Haodong. "Damn it, I must burn this monster." Zhao Qingkuan didn't want to get even with Qin Haodong. He took out a lighter and gasoline from the car and wanted to set fire to the man-eating vines to vent his anger. Wu Shaoxian kicked the lighter in his hand and said angrily, "You are crazy. What is this place? Once you set it on fire, the whole Shenangjia will be destroyed. At that time you can't pay for it even if you die 100 times. Zhao Qingkuan also recovered some of his senses. He knew that it was impossible to set fire, so he could only put away the gasoline embarrassedly. Lei Tianrui looked at Qin Haodong angrily, waved his hand and said, "Get in the car, let's go." Qin Haodong also got in the car with the little fellow and Hu Shaoxian. They left and went on. Soon after they left, 5 black figures came here. They were the 5 people of the devilish 5 who had been following them. What's the matter, boss? It's a mess here. It seems that someone has just fought. The one who spoke was a very ugly man. He was fat with a high belly and his face was full of black bumps the size of peanuts. He looked very ugly and disgusting. He was the toad of the 5 poisons. Then he was about to go forward to check, but he was grabbed back by the one-eyed man. Don't go there. It's the man-eating vines ahead. You will die if you go there. Man-eating vines? After hearing the one-eyed man's words, the others' expressions changed. As members of the mercenary group, they had all heard of the man-eating vines. It was a nightmare to encounter such things in the forest. Black Widow asked, Boss Scorpion, have those people been eaten by the man-eating vines? No, they are still alive. The one-eyed man said seriously. How is it possible? They will die if they encounter the man-eating vines. How can they survive? Black Widow looked surprised. The one-eyed man pointed to the main trunk of the man-eating vines and said, Look, there are no fresh bones over there, which proves that the man-eating vines have not eaten people. He turned back and pointed to the direction of the 2 Hummers. Look here, they continue to move forward, which means there is no problem at all. Does it mean that they also know the man-eating vines and did not enter its attack range? The tall and thin centipede asked. The one-eyed man pointed to the broken branches of the man-eating vines in front of them and said, No, these people not only entered the attack range but also fought with the man-eating vines. It seems that they won. Oh my God, they can defeat the man-eating vines. They are so strong. Black Widow cried in surprise. Isn't the man-eating vines invincible in the forest? How could they be defeated by these people? Toad asked. The one-eyed man said, I don't know the details. Anyway, we can see from the scene that they did fight with the man-eating vines and left here alive. The woman in red said, Boss, since they are so strong, can we still succeed in this mission? The one-eyed man smiled and said, So what if they are strong? Our devilish 5 mercenary group relies on poison. When have we ever fought with others face to face? Then he took out a small white jade bottle from his pocket and said, This is my latest muscle-weakening poison. This thing combines the toxicity of scorpions, toads, spiders, snakes, and centipedes. The rarest thing is that it is colorless and odorless and it will drift with the wind. As long as we find an upwind vent and spread the tendon-weakening poison, it will only take a few minutes for them to become obedient shrimps. At that time, we can do whatever we want with them and play with them however we want. Toad said, That's great, boss. You are indeed the leader of the devilish 5 mercenary group. You can even make this kind of thing. It's nothing. I was a poison master in the past. The one-eyed man said modestly, but there was a touch of irrepressible pride on his face. The woman in red said with a charming smile, Boss, how is the effect of your muscle-weakening poison? Can I still use those men after they are poisoned? The centipede said with a lewd smile, I don't know if the men can be used but the women can. Then the beautiful woman named Hu Shaoxian will be ours. Well, don't talk nonsense. Let's go and try to get ahead of them before it gets dark. After saying that, the one-eyed man quickly moved forward with several people and quickly disappeared into the jungle. Qin Haodong and the others kept moving forward. When it was getting dark, they found a suitable place to camp. He looked at the map drawn by Dilong. It was exactly the same direction as Lei Tianrui and the others. It seemed that they were probably going to the same goal. After a simple camp, Lei Tianrui and the others looked at Qin Haodong with a sneer. No one knew what they were planning. Dong Sihai caught a wild deer from somewhere and roasted it on the campfire. The fragrance was very fragrant. Soon dinner was ready, but it was different this time. Zhao Qingquan said to Hu Shaoxian, Shaoxian, come here for dinner. Hu Shaoxian said to Qin Haodong, Haodong, it's time to eat. Before Qin Haodong could respond, Zhao Qingquan said, Shaoxian, we don't have much equipment and food, so we can only provide food for our own people. He looked at Qin Haodong and said, if outsiders want to eat, they can. 1 million yuan for a meal. They can eat if they pay. If they don't pay, there's nothing we can do. Hu Shaoxian said angrily, how can you do that? Don't forget that Haodong just saved you. Zhao Qingquan said, I remember that, but we paid 5 million yuan for 5 people. Since we paid for the treatment, it's natural for him to pay for the meal. Hu Shaoxian wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Qin Haodong. He said carelessly, go ahead. It's just a meal. Tang and I can solve it ourselves. You can solve it? Don't you see where we are? This is Shenangjia. Do you think it's so easy to hunt? If Dong Sihai wasn't a jungle expert, we could only eat dry food. While Zhao Qingquan was talking, Qin Haodong picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at a nearby bush. With a bang, a wild rabbit hiding there was hit by the stone and vomited blood and fell to the ground. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.